ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Los Angeles City Council meeting for Friday, July 17th, 2009. Welcome to Council Chambers, all of the folks that are here in the audience, as well as those on Channel 35 who are watching us throughout the city's cable system. Channel 35 broadcasts us live each council meeting on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m., and also rebroadcasts us in the evening. We're available two other ways: through the internet, through your computer, if you go to the city's homepage at lacity.org, and there you can also see archived footage of our past council meetings, or you can use your telephone, which is 213-621-CITY. That's 213-621-CITY, in which you can listen in not only to the full council meeting, but any of our committee meetings as well. I want to thank those council members who are here on time pursuant to council rules. Council members Labange, Parks, Perry, Rosendahl, Wesson, and Zine. We do have a couple folks who are excused today on city business, Mr. Reyes and Mr. Cardenas. We have a vacancy in Council District 2, so we expect 12 members, and thus we are still awaiting Mr. Alarcon, Ms. Hahn, Mr. Huizar, Mr. Koretz, and Mr. Smith. Again, if those council members will please make their way down: Council members Alarcon, Council member Hahn, Council member Huizar, Council member Koretz, and Council member Smith. We will begin the Friday meeting, as we usually do, with special presentations to some of our city employees, city residents, and to mark important occasions and accomplishments. We will begin that shortly. If I can ask those council members to come down, we will begin probably in about 5 minutes. Thank you all for your patience while we await those council members. Mr. Alarcon and Mr. Huizar, Mr. Koretz, and Mr. Smith. As soon as we have a quorum, we'll run through the agenda and begin our presentations. Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Huizar, Mr. Koretz, and Mr. Smith, if you'll please come down immediately. Thank you. Thank you. We're still awaiting one more council member. Council member is Alarcon Huizar Koretz. Alarcon Huizar Koretz, we are now late. If you'll please join us right away. Thank you. While we are waiting a quorum, why don't we begin our presentations? And I'd like to recognize Dennis Zine to present to our fine officers that are here a very special presentation. Mr. Zine.
Mr. President, it's a pleasure to be joined by Council Member Greg Smith and Council Member Bernard Parks in recognizing members of the Los Angeles Police Department for special recognition. But I'd like to begin with a famous person of the Los Angeles Police Department and his comments, what it means to be a Los Angeles police officer.
It's awkward having a policeman around the house. Friends drop in, a man with a badge answers the door. The temperature drops 20 degrees. You throw a party and that badge gets in the way. All of a sudden there isn't a straight man in the crowd. Everybody's a comedian. Don't drink too much, somebody says, and the man with a badge will run you in. Or how's it going, Dick Tracy? How many jaywalkers did you pinch today? And then there's always the one who wants to know how many apples you stole. All at once you lost your first name. You're a cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news. They call you everything, but never a policeman. There's not much of a life unless you don't mind missing a Dodger game because the hotshot phone rings. Unless you like working Saturdays, Sundays, holidays. Oh, the pay's adequate. If you count your pennies, you can put your kid through college. But you better plan on seeing Europe on your television set. And then there's your first night on the beat. When you try to arrest a drunken prostitute in a Main Street bar and she rips your new uniform to shreds, you buy another one out of your own pocket. And you're going to rub elbows with all the elite. Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address and men who don't care. Liars, cheats, con men, the class of Skid Row. And the heartbreak. Underfed kids, beaten kids, molested kids, lost kids, crying kids, homeless kids. Hit and run kids, broken arm kids, broken leg kids, broken head kids, sick kids, dying kids, dead kids. The old people that nobody wants, the relievers, the pensioners, the ones who walked the street cold, and those who tried to keep warm and died in a $3 room with an unvented gas heater. You'll walk your beat and try to pick up the pieces. You're going to do time in a prowl car. Oh, it's going to be a thrill a minute when you get an unknown trouble call and hit a backyard at 2 in the morning, never knowing who you'll meet. A kid with a knife, a pillhead with a gun, or 2 ex-cons with nothing to lose. And you're going to have plenty of time to think. You'll draw duty in a lonely car with nobody to talk to but your radio. 4 years in uniform, you'll have the ability, the experience, and maybe the desire to be a detective. If you like to fly by the seat of your pants, this is where you belong. For every crime that's committed, you've got 3 million suspects to choose from. Most of the time, you'll have few facts and a lot of hunches. You'll run down leads that dead end on you. People who saw it happen, but really didn't. People who insist they did it, but really didn't. People who remember, those who try to forget. Those who tell the truth, those who lie. You'll run the files until your eyes ache. And paperwork? Oh, you fill out a report when you're right. You'll fill out a report when you're wrong. You'll fill one out when you're not sure. You'll fill one out listing your leads. You'll fill one out when you have no leads. You'll make out a report on the reports you've made. You'll write enough words in your lifetime to stock a library. You'll learn to live with doubt, anxiety, frustration, court decisions that tend to hinder rather than help you. You'll learn to live with the district attorney, testifying in court, defense attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, judges, juries, witnesses. And sometimes you're not going to be happy with the outcome. But there's there's also this. There are over 5,000 men in this city who know that being a policeman is an endless, glamorous, thankless job that's got to be done. I know it too, and I'm damn glad to be one of them.
Well, that was the famous Badge 714 Jack Webb from the old series Dragnet, and little difference, we've gone from 5,000 officers to 10,000 officers, but the job of law enforcement hasn't changed much as far as the responsibilities and the dedication of the men and women, in particular Los Angeles Police Department. And I don't know if we've ever brought our Medal of Valor winners, our top cops, into council. I know we honor officers and city employees different times of the year, but I thought it'd be appropriate in this particular time in our society that we recognize both the top cops and our Medal of Valor winners from the Los Angeles Police Department. And joining me, we have Councilmember Greg Smith, Councilmember Bernard Parks, and also the President of Los Angeles Police Protective League, Paul Weber, who's also a sergeant with the Los Angeles Police Department. The Top Cop Award. These officers standing here, if the top cops would please stand, our top cops. Officers standing here before us are LAPD officers nominated by the Los Angeles Police Protective League for the National Association of Police Organizations Top Cops Award. Top Cops Award pays tribute to law enforcement officers from across the country for outstanding service to their communities during the preceding year. Top Cops are nominated by fellow officers and selected from hundreds of nominations by an independent awards committee. Chosen as the 2008 National Organization of Police Officers, Top Cops represent the top 10 cases across the country. They take 10 cases across the country, and those are the folks we have with us this morning, members of the LAPD who received that prestigious honor. Nominated this year by LAPD are heroes in every sense. Their focus and courage under fire epitomizes what it means to be a Los Angeles police officer. These officers live up to the highest standards of the Los Angeles Police Department and are worthy of this great honor. The Top Cops nominees traveled to Washington, D.C. for an awards ceremony. They met with President Barack Obama on Tuesday, May 12th, and the City of Los Angeles thanks them for their sacrifice and are grateful for their outstanding service to the community of the City of Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Police Department Top Cops for 2008. Let's hear it for them. And then my comments from the reason the three of us are up here, we have all served with the Los Angeles Police Department, but the senior member of the LAPD.
The senior member.
The senior member.
Thank you, Dennis. Even when you compliment me, you give me a backhand. But let me, one thing I think is so important when we talk about the Medal of Valor, it is an award, and it's absolutely the highest award for conspicuous heroism that the police department can give. It's a award that's given by the police commission, but actually designated and actually handed out by the chief of police. This year, there's 25 members, including 5 women that were honored on May 28th. They have 6 separate incidents that these officers participated in, some well-publicized, others that were not so well-publicized, but they do not diminish their heroism. When the officers receive this award, they get a medal, a ribbon, a lapel pin, and a citation. And basically, it's a way in which the entire city thanks them very gratefully for their exercise of heroism. Many officers, it's kind of interesting, when they're given the Medal of Valor, will often say they were just doing their job. And that's exactly what they were doing, and many of them are somewhat shy and reluctant to receive such honor because they don't want to be separated from the class of police officer or their rank. They look at it as just going out and doing what's asked of them. And so it is the highest honor. It's something in which people can't plan to have it. It's a matter of when circumstances come together and when they get an opportunity to perform. It's unique in being a police officer, and the fact that they often run towards gunfire when everyone else is running away. They will give up their life for people who they don't even know, which is a mark of true heroism and also selflessness. And so it is my honor to ask the 2009 Medal of Valor winners to stand.
I want to thank Mr. Zion and Mr. Parks for laying out the importance of the roles these ladies and gentlemen played on behalf of the LAPD. And playing that old Jack Webb statement, it really is a great statement of what it's like to be a police officer, the incredible burden that these men and women chose when they decided to be a police officer. And when I went through the academy, I was fortunate to go to the Jack Webb building in the old police academy and have many of my classes there, so it really connects home. What I want to say to them is that each and every one of you are pathfinders in a way, that you have really laid down a very high bar of the way a police officer acts in the city of L.A., but more importantly, for every man and woman that wears the badge in LAPD, when you go out in the community, when you go out on patrol, when you do your job, and the arduous job it is sometimes, that you have laid a foundation of respect throughout our city for what a police officer stands for and does. And you've raised the bar so high, and every police officer aspires to meet that bar that you have set for others. And in doing so, have raised the image of the Los Angeles Police Department to its highest level, I think, in as far as I can remember. We've had this progression of getting better and better and better. And you represent the best of the best. So God bless you for being a police officer, but more importantly for raising that bar and showing every officer in this department what it means to be a police officer, and to tell the people of L.A. how proud we are of you and how proud they are of you is a tremendous role that you have set for all of us. And I say God bless you and thank you for your service.
The President of the Police Protective League, Paul Weber.
Thank you. I want to express my appreciation to the council and the council members here for honoring our officers. I take great pride in my role as president of the league because I have the honor of representing these fine men and women and 9,800 other officers who, as Councilman Parks said, are doing just as good a job each and every day. They are the front line of law enforcement here in the city of Los Angeles. They are our barrier from the element that seeks to harm us. Each one of them is a hero. We have 9,800 other heroes that can't be here today who are on the streets of Los Angeles. In addition, the top cop awardees from the incident that occurred last year, we're missing one additional person, Officer Randall Simmons, who made the ultimate sacrifice for the citizens of Los Angeles. He's not here today, but we will never forget him. God bless him, and God bless the LAPD. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So, what we want to do now is the officers will come up, identify themselves, and then we're going to go back on photos. But we want to hear
there's some council members who wish to be heard as well. Ms. Hahn and Mr. Rosenthal. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. I just wanted to take this opportunity to rise and thank you for your service. As was said, really going beyond the call of duty, so to speak, and I think this is important. And while, it was mentioned that many of you, you're just doing your job, and many of you sometimes are even a little humbled or shy about receiving this, but I think what's important is, when you read through these, an apartment fire, a store altercation, a car fire, foot pursuit, the incident that happened with the domestic violence, a hostage rescue. In the city of Los Angeles, we have taken a stand that public safety is our #1 priority. And it's always about being safe, but it's also about our residents feeling safe. And sometimes those are two different things, but I think a ceremony like this and the opportunity to highlight your extraordinary response to a very, very scary situation really gives the public a feeling that, you know what, many times they take our officers for granted. Many times when they see patrol officers or detectives, it's just kind of sometimes part of the background or landscape of Los Angeles. These kinds of ceremonies, highlighting what you actually can do and will do in the face of extreme, extraordinary danger, gives the public, gives the residents of Los Angeles, and those who don't live here but come here for various reasons, a feeling that LAPD has a force of officers that, when and if needed, will go to extraordinary lengths to protect someone who is most vulnerable. So I think this is important, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to honor you and thank you in public. We owe you all a huge debt of gratitude.
Mr. Rosendahl, to be followed by Mr. Huizar and Mr. Labange. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, a lot of times when we're around each other, I'll say something like, be safe. And we smile at each other. It's sort of a way of saying, you know, we know you're out there in harm's way every minute of every day. When you put that uniform on, you can either attract some insanity towards you, or you go to a situation that is insane to begin with. Okay? So you are a target, a good target, a bad target. You're a blessing to us when we see you. We know you're there to protect us and to serve us. But you are in harm's way. And to see just the different positioning, apartment fire, store altercation, okay? Car fire, foot pursuit, a case of domestic violence, and hostage rescue. I mean, come on. You're right there, out there. So all I can say is from the bottom of my heart and the 300,000 constituents I represent, we thank you for being there for us and keeping our great city safe. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Mr. Huizar.
Well, I think, as you can see here, we just can't say enough to express our gratitude and our thank yous to all the officers who are before us and those who serve with this proud uniform and badge. And for those who are before us today with the Medal of Honor, we know that when you're presented with a situation and you are going to have just seconds to respond to immediate danger, your instinctive reaction, I believe, was founded upon your commitment to protect our residents and our citizens. And so we thank you. We want to let you know and let the public know that we do have men and women here in the LAPD who are out there, as was said earlier, each and every day putting their own safety on the line for the safety of all. So thank you very much. Congratulations to you all.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wanted to rise to salute all these great officers who several years ago came and struggled to become a Los Angeles police officer through the process of employment here. And your dedication and service is to be commended. I think the one thing, too, which is great is the instinct that a police officer has, the instinct to know what to do and when to do it. And you absolutely exercise your instinct to engage in very serious situations. I'm also proud of every officer in this city and that great badge that shows this grand city hall, which is a testament to the people who built this in 1927. And this city hall represents all of us, and your badge is the best badge in the world. And I thank Mr. Zine and Mr. Parks and Mr. Smith. And I especially thank the late, great Jack Webb, who went to Belmont High, who probably as a child saw this city hall and had this reflection, and as he developed his whole concept of how important the LAPD is. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. And I ask one request of the legislative analysts that next year at the Medal of Valor luncheon, and I ask this of Vivek, that we get a motion that it be televised on Channel 35 from point to point, because at Hollywood and Highland just a month ago, it was a tremendous event that everyone gathered for that should be shared with the public to hear the stories that you did in action for the people of Los Angeles. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Perry.
Thanks, Mr. President, and I also wanted to say thank you. Although the words thank you don't seem adequate, you know, it's a testament to your training, your skill, and your devotion. Each one of these incidents is complex, highly dangerous, very unstable, and all of you came through with success, and I want to say thank you. And I also, you know, I represent the area that includes Newton and 77th, and Janice and I share a little bit of Southeast, and, you know, just to say thank you to Sergeant Christopher Gomez and Officer Jesus Carrillo as a special thank you, and the folks from Southeast too, because we have a hard time. That is hard service in Newton and hard service in 77th and Southeast, and it's unending. And so for those of you who serve in those areas, a special heartfelt thank you, because I know it's hard, and I do appreciate what you do to save people's lives every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I know you guys are probably tired from standing up listening to us just babble on, but this is an occasion where I think every member of the council wants to rise and give you a special thank you. I can remember in the olden days when I was a kid, we had at our high school, we had representatives from the FBI and from then the Cleveland Police Department. It was career day. So I got real excited, and I wanted to be in law enforcement. Back at that time, they had a height requirement and they had a weight requirement. And it just does I probably wouldn't have been a good police officer anyway, so maybe for me I was lucky. But it does my heart good to see that courage comes in all colors, all genders, and all sizes, and I'm just proud and very appreciative for everything that you do. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wesson. Mr. Zine to close. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to have each officer come forward to identify their name, how many years of service they have with the City of Los Angeles, and also the division of assignment. I want to give each officer an opportunity for the public, the people of Los Angeles, to see who they are, the years of service, and where they work in the City of Los Angeles. So if we can start with our top cops, and then we'll conclude with our Medal of Valor winners, and then we will take some photographs of the personnel. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I'm Sergeant Chuck Petita, 29 years with the department. I'm from Metropolitan Division, Special Weapons and Tactics Team.
Officer Douglas Dingman, 22 and a half years in the job. I work Metropolitan Division.
Officer Michael Odell, 30 years LAPD, assigned to Special Weapons and Tactics. Thank you.
I'm Floyd Curry, 11 years on the job. I work Special Weapons and Tactics.
George Ryan, 17 years with the department, assigned to Special Weapons and Tactics. Thank you.
Thomas Chinapi, 19 years, Metropolitan Division.
Tony Samuelson, Metropolitan Division, 16 years with LAPD.
Officer Lyman Doster, 13 years with LAPD, working South Bureau Homicide.
Officer Mara Tercero, I 60 years on the job, and I work 77th Division.
Haley Smith, and I have 13 years on, and I currently work at 77th Station.
Fernando Avila, and I currently work 40th Division Gang Enforcement Detail. 9 years with the department.
Morning, Sergeant Christopher Gomez, 13 years, currently assigned to Northeast GED.
Sean Kinchla, 9 years, currently assigned to West Los Angeles Division.
Jeff Ennis, 20 years, assigned to Emergency Services Division, Bomb Squad.
Gonzalez Lau, 5 years, I work at West Valley.
Eddie Salazar, assigned to Everett Division, 13 years with the department, born and raised San Fernando Valley.
Good morning. Officer Vincent Ross, assigned to 77th Street Area Division.
Sus Carrillo, 11 years on Metropolitan Division, Boy Platoon.
Officer Pete Vandenberg, 35 years, retired, now a reserve, and a challenge to the community and citizens of LA. Join LAPD, be a reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. And for an introduction, please welcome the Councilwoman of the 15th District, Janice Hahn.
Colleagues, I'm very pleased to introduce a very special group of young women who are down here visiting City Hall. I want to welcome Girl Scout Troop 593 from the Southwest Division, the Lomita Harbor City neighborhood. Girls, why don't you stand up, and maybe the cameras can focus on you. It's great to have you all here in the City Council. You are clearly the future leaders of this area, and it's great to see you down here this morning. Any of you guys that know and girls know about Girl Scouts, they work on getting certain awards, and they're working on getting the Bronze Award. And part of that is they've been working on My Community and the Books badges in order to complete their service project for a wonderful organization in the Harbor area, the Harbor Interfaith Homeless Shelter for Women and Children in San Pedro. Isn't that great that they're doing a service award and working at the Harbor Interfaith Shelter? I think that is so important. It makes me realize that you girls are going to grow up knowing what's important and knowing how important it is to give back to your community. I want to give a shout out to the troop leader, Christine Warnick. Christine, we're glad you brought them down. And of course, Christine is the wife of the former mayor of Lomita, Mark Warnick. Mark, stand so we can also recognize you. Girls rule is what we say down here on the City Council. So welcome, congratulations, and we know that we're going to be seeing a lot more of you young women in the future as you go on to do and accomplish great things. And I'm going to meet you in the back, and we'll take an official photo down here at City Hall. So thank you for joining us in City Hall. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the great Girl Scouts. Give them a better hand, everybody, the great job they do. I'd like to recognize right now Council President Garcetti and President Pro Tem Jan Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We join today with our chair of our Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee, Mr. Weston, as well, to celebrate one of those jewels here in Los Angeles. Somebody who has made it a joy to work here. Before, when I chaired our HCD committee, I got to do what Mr. Weston does, which is to interact with a great department, our community development department. But we know that a department only runs as smoothly as its liaison to the City Council. And when they created the mold of what a liaison should look like, should be like, and should interact with the City Council like, it was Greg Dimmitt, who today we celebrate 23 years of service to the City of Los Angeles and a very well-earned retirement as of today. This is the last day. This is literally the last day. Greg has been that friendly face that we see during difficult committee and full council meetings, our staffs work with, and then on any and every issue handled the great work of community development here in Los Angeles. Whether it was getting information out to local businesses on tax incentives provided by state enterprise zones, or dealing with nonprofits who CDD had lent funds to help them get off the ground, revamping our services delivery system and explaining how that would affect service providers. Greg is that guy when we have somebody who has a really tough problem, we go, why don't you go talk to Greg? And he was a communicator, an enabler, and a person to whom we could turn to get things done. It's hard to believe, but he began in the city in 1986, began working at CDD's Industrial and Commercial Development Division, where he managed economic development programs, wrote grants, and worked on legislation that targeted incentives to our most impoverished neighborhoods in Los Angeles. And one of his signature accomplishments, and something he should feel immense pride about, is his work to bring state enterprise zones to Los Angeles. Millions upon millions of dollars and thousands upon thousands of jobs have resulted from his work. He served as a founding member of the California Association of Enterprise Zones. These are areas where you get tax credits and incentives for new employees, and we've coordinated state and federal funding to make sure that these areas, which have been sometimes the most oppressed, become among the most vibrant. These zones provide tax credits, DWP discounts, other incentives that help small and new businesses get off the ground, and we need that more now than ever. Greg has also testified many times on behalf of the city of Los Angeles and the state legislature in Washington, D.C., and he's had the honor of representing us as a featured speaker on behalf of the city throughout the country and even around the world. In 1999, he was part of the Transatlantic Dialogue Conference at the European Parliament in Brussels. And anybody who knows Greg knows that he loves his travel, and when he has those hard-earned vacation days, he usually takes a small group, often of city employees, to far-flung places around the world. He truly is has, I think, wanderlust, but always comes home here to Los Angeles. Since October 2000, he has served in the Executive Management Division as the department liaison, and that's where we've had the great fortune of working together, almost in the same years. He's been the go-to person, working tirelessly to solve problems and to bring grant-funded programs to the residents of city. And in doing that, these programs transformed lives. They put families back on track, they helped businesses grow, they made sure that we had neighborhood stability, and he's accomplished this with a smile, with grace, with intelligence, and with wit. His innovations and services and technology have truly made this a better place to live. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues to say a couple words, Jan Perry, and then Herb Wesson as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. And you summed up Greg's background so well and so succinctly. But as a graduate of the University of Southern California,
Third generation
graduate of the University of Southern California, MBA.
Is that all right? Still?
MBA, Master's in Business Administration. I just felt I needed to highlight that. But the most important thing about Greg is that he did his job with a great deal of joy and positive energy in a very difficult department that has to constantly seek funding for programs and explain to people oftentimes why it's taking so long or why they got denied, or it's not always happy news that he had to deliver, but he always did it well. He did it intelligently, he was diligent, and he's going to have big shoes to fill. But he's earned this, and I'm pleased to be able to just say goodbye publicly to him and to say thank you for his contribution, not just to the department, but to all the people in the city of Los Angeles who benefited from his hard work. Thank you very much, Greg.
As the chair of the committee that Greg reports to, I've had an opportunity to observe him for several years, and he is so calm, regardless of what the issue is. Big, small, tough questioning, he's always calm, he always knows the answers, and I think it's a big loss for the city of Los Angeles. But when I walked up here, he told me he is so excited, so obviously some of us pissed him off. I mean, that's the only thing I can guess. He said, I am so excited, I cannot wait. This is the day, this is it. Again, like I said, he's been a class act. Now, I have this strange habit of telling jokes in committee, and sometimes the jokes are good and sometimes the jokes are bad. All I do, I look at him, and when he laughs, I know I hit a home run. So I don't listen to what the president says or Jan Perry. When I can make him smile, I say, Mr. Chair, you did good. But look, it's been a pleasure. I wish you the best. They tell me you're going to be going down towards the San Diego area, where the weather is probably just beautiful, and enjoy yourself and enjoy the next chapter in your life. And it was my honor to serve with you. Good luck to you.
There are a couple issues today, since it is your last day. I know that I think Ms. Hahn wanted to talk to you about some enterprise zone incentives that didn't quite work out, and Ms. Perry would like to speak with you about a couple things too. But short of that, we did want to congratulate you, and this resolution just barely captures the 23 years of distinguished service that you have put in. But I know on behalf of this entire city, the mayor, our city controller, and city attorney, we thank you for a career here of changing lives. We know that you will continue to change lives in a more private way, just as an extraordinary person, but you've earned every day of your retirement. May it be fruitful, may you see more of the world, and may you keep in touch with all of us. God bless you.
Thank you.
And
Oh, my goodness.
we'll take pictures afterwards.
Okay. I feel truly honored to be here today. I really do. The work has been great, but really what I want to say is I've truly enjoyed working with all of you, and I really hope that showed through with the work that I've done with you. You're all real special, and I feel real honored to be part of the family here in council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Wesson and Ms. Perry, and Greg, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to call on the councilman of the great 8th District, Bernard Parks.
How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Wow.
He's like, 1 hour ago.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask Nita Thompson to come up, who's the president of the African American Blood Drive and Bone Marrow Registry that we're honoring today, and also ask Sharon Edwards, Babe Evans, Kiki Shepard, and Don Lewis to come up. Kiki and Don are board members, in addition to, in their own right, having a number of accomplishments on the stage, TV, and a variety of other kinds of entertainment and theatrical achievements. But today, we wanted to honor this organization because we feel as though it is something that is so important as we think about health in our community, and particularly when some of our communities are suffering from 60% of the population that do not have health care. Often they're the last to know that they're in jeopardy because they have some medical issue that they've not been made aware of. But the African American Blood Drive and Bone Marrow Registry for Sickle Cell Disease Awareness is honored on June the 19th as a World Sickle Cell Awareness Day. We in the City of Los Angeles wanted to support that as part of that acknowledgement on a worldwide day, but also bring them here to the council so they can also advise us of some of the things that they're involved with. Often you'll see individuals from the African American Blood Drive and Bone Marrow Registry at a variety of things, from health fairs to walks, runs, festivals, golf tournaments, around the halls of Children's Hospital, also at the Black Expo at the Convention Center. They also work to prevent patient, family members, and hospital staff from worrying about whether African Americans will have sufficient blood supply and bone marrow to treat certain patients with transfusions and other needs. The registry also is involved in awareness. They endeavor to help people to understand the importance of donating blood, bone marrow, and newborn embryo, cord, and blood bank marrow to the registry. They work with the Sickle Cell Foundation of California, KISS Foundation, to educate the community on sickle cell. And what's important to know is, although we've highlighted sickle cell as being, quote, an African American disease, I think it's important to realize that it cuts across ethnic lines and economic lines, and it touches almost every ethnic group in all races in our world. The registry also sits on a number of committees to bring out awareness. They participate in local, state, and national level for research, and they're great advocates as it relates to the legislative process. Today, we wanted to adopt this motion and resolution that the City Council congratulates the African American Blood Drive and Bone Marrow Registry for Sickle Cell Disease Awareness in recognition of their efforts to urge all citizens to increase awareness about sickle cell disease and traits by donating blood and register for bone marrow. And so we want to also commend them on being a part of the Worldwide Awareness Day on June 19th. Let me ask Ms. Thompson to come up and make some comments.
Thank you, Councilman Parks. All council members, staff, and the Los Angeles City, my home. The United Nations made June 19th World Sickle Cell Day for sickle cell disease awareness as well as trait awareness, because sickle cell is a global problem. Many sickle cell patients are on blood transfusion therapy, and there is never enough blood. Sickle cell can be cured by bone marrow or stem cell transplants, but many do not match the donors that are already on the registry because of the low numbers. Presently, the lack of awareness results in the lack of proper medical treatment. Patients are ignored, accused of being drug addicts rather than pain management. There are medical oversights which has led to the death of persons both with sickle cell disease and trait. I would like to recognize our collaborative partners and their members. The Sickle Cell Disease Foundation of California are preparing for a children's camp, so they could not be represented here. They have been active over 50 years and are in dire need of funds. They service all of California, and their doors will close without support. Sharon Edwards of Share Events. She is also the Health, Sports, and Fitness Coordinator for the Black Business Expo. Kiki Shepard, CEO of the KISS Foundation, along with board member Don Lewis and member Babe Evans. Their foundation focuses on sickle cell awareness, and they're having a bowling challenge this September 18th. Councilman Danny Tabor of Inglewood and the Southern California Sickle Cell Adult Support Group, with member present. In September, the support group will hold both Saturday and Sunday events every weekend in September. The Inland Empire Sickle Cell Foundation, Children's Hospital for Blood Donor Unit, and finally, you can contact us, the African American Blood Drive and Bone Marrow Registry for Sickle Cell Disease Awareness at 323-750-1087. We were very honored this year as the first Sickle Cell Day to actually coordinate the events on a global level. If anyone wants to register their marrow, we are hosting the first global World Sickle Cell Day online marrow drive for BeTheMatch.com, or you can register today by me. Thank you so much. And finally, this is a t-shirt for you, self-made by us. We are a group of patients, family members, and supporters, and we collaborate with all of our people behind me and alongside of me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me ask Don and Kiki to come up and make some comments, and Kiki particularly with your foundation.
We're very, very happy. Come, Dawn, come, babe. We're very happy to be here today. We work diligently to raise awareness, as Nita has said, but we're very proud to be associated with Nita Thompson because she is a sickle cell mom. She created this bone marrow registry, and everything she said is so very true. And with education, this terrible disease can be stopped. So we are very thankful to be here every day. We're thankful to you for putting this resolution forward. And we ask everyone, please, to go get tested. Just go get tested so that you are going through life with education and knowledge. Dawn?
Thank you. One of the blessings and benefits of doing what we do in the entertainment industry is that our presence and our voice encourages people to listen who may not normally listen. Kiki's Foundation, we have been working together without foundation status for close to 12 years. We've had foundation status now for the last 4 years. Within that time, we have been able to raise funds, enough awareness and support for the medical community to provide the bone marrow transplant for at least 2 of our sickle cell children who are now living completely sickle cell free. So it is possible. Thank you. So whatever we can do to continue to raise awareness, that is what it is our intention to do, to work tirelessly and effortlessly, but we need the support of our community, we need the support of our city government and council, and so this day is truly, truly a blessing and a huge shot in the arm for this community that does not necessarily take this particular disease seriously, but when the city says it is serious, the community comes together behind it so we can make a change. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And so on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, Ms. Thompson wanted to present this to you in behalf of all of your efforts as it relates to sickle cell and bone marrow.
Thank you so much.
We're going to go in the back and take some photos.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks, and congratulations, and thank you, everybody, for your great work. With that, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 12 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
All right, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Labange moves and Mr. Rosendahl seconds without objection. Those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Koretz moves and Mr. Alarcon seconds without objection. Those will be approved as well. We can please run through the agenda.
On the regular agenda, item 1 is an ordinance notice for public hearing, and there is a card on that.
Okay, we'll call that special for a card from the public on number 1. Next item.
Items 2 through 5 are items for which public hearings have been held. I understand there are amendments on number 5. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
Yes, let's hold 5 on the desk for amendments. Are there any specials from the council? 2 through 5, or 2 through 4, excuse me. If not, we'll take up 2, 3, and 4. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved, or those are approved, excuse me. Next items, please.
Items 6 through 21 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
There's no objection. We'll consider those before us right now. Do we have any cards in the public on these?
Yes, Mr. President. There are cards on items 6, 17, 18, and 21.
Okay. We'll open and close the other public hearings. Any specials? Okay. We're not quite there almost. We're not quite there either. This is 6 through 21?
Point of order, no.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said 24. Sorry. Point of order, yes.
Mr. President, I feel threatened by that gentleman there, and I would like him removed from this council. And I believe he threatens the other people in the audience as well.
Okay. If there's disruption both from the public, as has been indicated...
It's not about disruption. I feel he is threatening.
Okay.
I do not want him in this room.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. If you will keep that off, you can stay here. But, sir, I'm speaking. But because you had caused a disruptive effect to the meeting before, and it is a continuing disruption for folks, you have made... Hold on. And a threat to others. A threat. We will ask you to keep that off. Can you comply with that? Will you comply with that, sir? Will you comply with that, sir?
Mr. President, as a minority...
Hold on.
As a minority who... this man is representing an organization that has taken open positions against...
I understand that, but
they have been criminally convicted of attacks on minorities. It is not about being offended. This is about feeling threatened by that gentleman right there.
Okay, sir. We'll talk to you in a second about that, and there's a disruption to the meeting right now. Yes, Mr. Rosendahl?
Just a point of order. In a conversation with our city attorney, he made it very clear to me, Nuch Tutanich, that if they wear a mask of any kind in this facility here, we can consider it a terrorist threat potential, and that is a disruptive act. Besides what Mr. Alarcon is saying, which I totally agree with his position as well.
Okay. We have looked very closely at case law, both, as we know, we've had people who do very stupid things and have the right to do that. And we have the right to also speak out against it. We've had people who are members of the Ku Klux Klan. Hold on. Here, hold on. Just hear me out on this before so you can understand where we're headed with this. And then it is under my discretion here. The Ku Klux Klan had marches through Skokie, Illinois, where there were Holocaust survivors, for instance. That was upheld, even though some said that they felt directly threatened. These are people who survived the Holocaust, having them march right through their neighborhood. So I'm focused on the disruption of the meeting. The disruption of the meeting, which is what I'm focused on. I understand that it may feel threatening, case law, when others have felt threatened. Hold on, Mr. Alarcon, please, let me... So, yeah, absolutely. So based on that, I will reiterate, this has had a disruptive effect, and if you plan on keeping that off and staying off and not putting it on, you can stay here, otherwise I will have you removed. Just a yes or no, sir. Will you keep it off? Sir, no. It is not your prerogative. If you cannot make that commitment because it had a disruptive effect, I will ask for you to be removed today. Okay. Will you please remove him? I'm sorry, sir, I could not get that commitment from you. So I will ask, you are being disruptive right now, and I will ask you again, yes or no, can you keep the hood off? And if you cannot, yes. No, that's it, sir. It is not your meeting, and it is not your time to speak. All right. Next order of business, please. And if you continue to yell from the audience, I'll have you removed. Next order of business, please.
Mr. President, we're still on items 6 through 21.
Okay. Any specials? Yes, Mr. Risa?
Never had this much dialogue with any public comment speaker to try to figure out whether they can or cannot speak. We spent enough time on this. We already know what the rules are. We shouldn't spend any more time on this. He just can't speak unless he comes up without his mask.
That's the point I was trying to make. I appreciate that, Mr. Risa. Any specials, colleagues? If not, we do have the balance of these items then. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, those are approved. Next items, please.
On the continuation agenda, item 22 is a building and safety lien notice for public hearing.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl would like to call that special?
And there is a card on that matter as well.
And we'll call it special for card from the public as well.
Item 23 is an item for which public hearing has been held.
Okay. Anybody wishing to call 23 special? 23? If not, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
No. Next items, please.
Items 24 through 30 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
All right. Is there any objection to consideration? If not, those are before us. If we could see if we have any cards on those.
Yes, Mr. President. There are cards on 24, 25, 26, 28, 29, and 30.
Okay. That leaves us just with 27. Anybody wishing to call 27 special? If not, let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay. That is approved. We can go to the continuation agenda, the next items.
Actually, that was part of the continuation agenda. The remaining items are items 31 through 33, and those are the closed session items. And there is a request to continue item 31 to next Wednesday.
Okay. If there's no objection, we'll continue item 31 till then.
And you wish to hold 32 and 33 on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold those on the desk. That'll take us to our general public comment for items not on the agenda, but before our council. Michael Hunt is our first speaker, if you'd like to come forward.
And this is to the city attorney. Is this public comment?
Sir, if you can please address it. Right now we have public comment to the council. Please address the council as a whole.
And I want to define something because as I just got through talking to Mooski and everybody, they said that my cap is First Amendment permitted while I'm up here on the podium.
I will restate as I did, and I'll hold your time.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Sir, I will restate as I did before, and I will hold your time, and you don't have a dialogue with the city attorney. This is a chance for you to testify in front of the city council that you have a right to wear that. I have a right to make sure that the meeting is not disrupted as well. In an abstract, just as you have a right to free speech, that is also a limited right. We all have limited rights in this nature, okay? You don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater, other things. So the limitation, I am focused on, sir, if you continue to interrupt me, I will ask you to leave too for being disruptive. I'm explaining to you because you asked, and I'm stating this for the record. You have a right to do that. You do not have a right to block people's view, which is what happens when you sit with that on. You do not have a right also to disrupt the meeting, which is the effect that it is happening on people who are in the audience. You have people who are here who have had crosses burned on their lawn. You have other things. You can make a really stupid call, and I can use all my free speech to say how dumb and stupid and offensive it is, and I will continue to do that. But you do not have the right unlimited to wear that. Yes, in an abstract way, there is no limitation on you wearing a mask and that outrageous and offensive garb. But if it has a disruptive effect, that goes into the area of action, and we will have you removed. So go ahead, sir.
You can ask me to be removed, and I'll go, but do I have the right to put on the cap? Just while I'm up here, while I'm speaking.
Hold on.
You've given him the rule.
Hold on, sir. It's been explained. We don't need to say that, guys.
This is not a debate.
This is not a debate, Mr. Zine. We will not be answering those questions. Go ahead, sir.
So can I wear my hat for 10 seconds?
If you're being unduly repetitive, too, then I will make that finding right now.
I don't know. I'm just trying to really find out what my rights are as the First Amendment is concerned.
This is not question and answer, sir. Thank you for your speech today. Do you have anything new to add? Do you have anything new to add?
Can you please clarify it?
No, you're being unduly repetitive now, so thank you very much. Our next speaker is Michael Carrion. After that will be Edward Gilbert.
Yes, my name is Michael Carrion. And I know some of you people feel this is offensive, but you brought it upon yourselves. You know, you hand out stuff, and you turn around and you tell them that you got a permit to do this, and then you cite them, and then you take it to court, then you lose, then you choose not to pay. You end up spending more money in defending yourselves than you do settling. But just like the president said, people do stupid things. And you people here are people too. You're chosen to represent us, but you do stupid things. Miss Perry threw out the gardeners on 41st Street. It's an empty lot. That was a stupid decision. Mr. LaBonge wants to stand here and defend the police department. You guys gave them all certificates. They're all parked outside illegally. That was stupid. I don't understand. If you want to call stupid stupid, look in the mirror. Okay? I'm trying to be as fair as I can. I try to be a little reasonable here, but you turn around and make the public look like we're stupid. You guys are the ones who lost our money. You guys are the ones that put us in bankruptcy. The mayor's out there looking for his next tax. He doesn't care about the city. Yeah, I'm angry. You keep raising our taxes and give us less service. You compare yourself to other cities. Pasadena, Alhambra, Monterey Park, they have quality service in their cities. Our service here sucks. It's terrible. Yet you sit here getting these high dollars and do nothing about it. I've come to you month after month asking you to look at the corruption right outside your own door. And oh, we're working on it. Oh, we're doing something about it. Oh, we're this. You've done nothing but talk. It's hot air coming out the wrong end.
Our next speaker is Edward Gilbert. After that is Arden Rainu. Good morning, sir.
I'm Dr. Edward Gilbert. I live in Studio City. I came to speak about the Studio Oaks Park project. It's a parkway along Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. The city has already spent over $375,000 on a project that will ultimately cost over $1 million as planned. By a recent neighborhood survey, over 90% of the residents involved did not want this project. The way it is now being developed, it will become a death trap for pedestrians for two reasons. One, the 4-block area will no longer allow people parking their car on Ventura Boulevard to walk to a sidewalk without walking in traffic to a corner, since there will be large plants and a wooden barrier that will prevent people from safely crossing the parkway as they do now. When unloading small children, this is unconscionable. Two, the handicap ramps at Long Ridge Avenue and Van Ord Avenue are aimed directly into traffic, turning these corners off Ventura Boulevard. Those cars all go at least 20 to 25 miles an hour along Ventura Boulevard, and when they turn, they can't see people on skateboards or people pushing strollers coming along that walk, because it's not a sidewalk, but a walkway hidden from view from traffic. The recent petition that I signed showing interest in the project was obtained fraudulently. That's basically why I'm here. Since the project had already started without my knowledge, I was told I needed to sign a petition in order to be able to vote against the completion of this project. I was definitely not told that my signing the petition showed a favorable interest in the project and would be counted as such by the city.
Thank you, sir. We have a clock there for 2 minutes per speaker. If you want us to read anything else, we'd be happy to take that from you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought I had more time. I've never been here before. I didn't understand.
No, I'm sorry. It's 2 minutes per speaker. If you want to just add one sentence to wrap things up, that's fine. But otherwise, I'd ask you to give it to the sergeant.
I would like one sentence further, and simply stated, this is an upscale neighborhood of multi-million-dollar homes, and that people would complain if anything were unsightly or dangerous. And for 50 years, nobody ever complained.
Thank you. And it's in Council District 2, sir?
I'm in Paul Lawrence's.
We'll see if we can get somebody from the staff to come talk to you as well. Thank you. Arden Rainu is our next speaker. And after that is Dr. Clyde Williams.
Hello, my name is Arden Rainu. I also live in Studio City, and I'm also here to speak against the Studio City Oaks Neighborhood Project. Last fall, 65 of our neighbors from our neighborhood gathered together on a Saturday morning, and we went out and swept up the streets of Ventura Boulevard from Laurel Canyon to Fulton Avenue. This was community action at its best. Later in December, I was contacted and asked for my support for the rehabilitation of this area. I agreed I would help. But this time I was told they don't need my sweat. Instead, they needed my support. I was told that Jack Weiss had pushed through an allocation of $375,000 on November 26 to begin this project, and that $250,000 more was needed to complete the project. $375,000, I asked. Are you aware of what's going on in the city? This isn't a park, it's just a walking path. This money should be used to fix our streets, or the $625,000 could be used to save 20 teachers' jobs. How could all this come about? It was proposed by our neighbors that we conducted a poll. I have copies that I will give you of the poll, but basically we went door to door. My wife and I spent 3 days of one group going. We went to 200 houses. Of the 200 houses, we talked to 150 of our neighbors. Of those 150, only one neighbor was in favor of this project. Only one. 149 were totally against it. That's why I'm here. I wish that we take a new look on how our money is spent. The people of this city are willing to roll up our sleeves and do something to help, but this misspending of money is just not justified. We should save our teachers, save our roads.
Thank you, sir. And I know the deputy from the council district is speaking with your colleague right now, right there, so I'm sure you can join the conversation. Dr. Clyde Williams is our next speaker, and then we have Dan Halbert. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Has anyone ever heard of Aztec Rising? Last session, you decided that the DWP needed to look at an exemption for people in the high fire zone areas. Yesterday, I talked with a representative of the LA Fire Department. He says, we don't have the people, we don't have the money to do brush clearance. Brush clearance would satisfy all fire requirements in the very high fire zone areas and not require an exemption from the Tier 2 rates for those of us in the elevated areas where there's a lot of brush. We could also hire through contracts through Bureau of Public Works, through the LA Fire Department, through the City Council representative for the areas, to have these people in Aztec Rising employed, especially during this summer. LA Fire Department gets a lot of money from the city when there's a fire, but not much money for prevention of fires. Do we have to wait for another Sayers fire in CD5 or CD2 or CD14 before we can recognize that fire prevention through brush clearance, through employment of Aztec Rising and others, can help reduce the fire danger? We can spend a lot of money for item 28, but we can't spend money for employing these people who have been trained to do fire clearance, to fight fires, and to help our communities. They are part of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a point of information, a number of us do hire them and do enjoy their work. It's very exemplary work. Mr. Zahn.
I want to clarify for the record, Mr. President, at Public Safety on Monday, we had a number of appeals on the ordinance that requires folks to clear vegetation, and the LA City Fire Department is very active and involved in that to make sure that it is properly cleared. Whoever said they're not doing that is incorrect. The LA Fire Department is doing that. They are inspecting, and people who don't comply, the city does it, and people are billed for that. So, just for the record.
Thank you. Dan Halbert is our next speaker. After that is Arnold Sachs. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm back from Wednesday's meeting that was adjourned and public comment wasn't heard. I'm representing the medical marijuana dispensary group. I came to appeal for fairness and balance in this process that you guys are putting us through. You need to stand up and take responsibility for the mess that you guys have created, allowing hundreds of dispensaries to open, and then 2 years later deciding to do something about it. You're causing millions of dollars worth of lost investment, mine and other people that just came here, and we're operating honest operations. Millions of dollars of lost revenue for the city of LA. We could be using this to create jobs. I've received overwhelming community support. I've had all of my fellow business owners on my block say that we are not causing any problems. Mr. Rosendahl even acknowledged last week that we are a good dispensary, but item 21 I didn't even get to speak on last week. You just rolled right through it. I've invited him down to my location. He has not taken me up on that yet. You are not judging on merit. You're just rubber stamping people in our kangaroo court system. This is ridiculous. I have news for you. Fear of federal prosecution is a legitimate hardship. You cannot ask law-abiding citizens to risk federal prosecution to open up a business in your city. You're punishing law-abiding citizens for waiting for that to end. I'm telling you, we are forming a class action lawsuit. We have the best attorneys. I don't want to do this. I would rather give the money in an application process that we can figure this all out together. I'm on your side. I do not want bad dispensaries operating in this city either. On the Venice Boardwalk, there are actual people going to the tourists trying to sell the marijuana that aren't even from the city. They're not medical patients. It's getting ridiculous. We agree with you, but you can't put the good operators like myself and my reputation. I've only been here since January, but people know that I'm doing a good job in my thing. So,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your testimony. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that is Zuma Dog and Van Nuys.
Good morning, City Council.
Good morning.
2.5 hours to discuss commission appointees on Wednesday. Was it necessary? You had some people come up here with affordable housing requesting you to come up with a plan for affordable housing. I hope you have the same kind of respect and have your hearing in public in the chambers and give the people that come to speak that amount of time instead of limiting the public like you do so often to 10 minutes on an item or 15 minutes on an item. 2.5 hours. Was it necessary to rehash the hearing for the Harbor Commissioner? Was it necessary to question the Police Commission on LAPD Chief's policy and authority regarding uniforms and staffing? Just so you know, the staffing at LAWA is necessary so that the city is eligible for federal funds. Without the LAPD there, since the LAWA police are not sworn police officers of the city, then the LA City would not be eligible for funds because the police would not be part of any of the authorities that the federal government funds regarding the Airport Commission. I know you're going to correct me, Mr. Smith. I got my information from El Segundo. The living wage ordinance that's been so widely heralded. Thank God we have a study. Now we know it's $3 to get affordable health coverage. So I'm expecting all the city council members who are making $187,000 to take a $3 raise per hour and eliminate the cost for the city to pay for health coverage. You have a two-tiered ordinance. Is that legal? We hear how we need to be protective. What about the convention center? What about the workers of the convention center? Will they be covered? No, they won't be covered. The LAWA, they're going to add it on to the tickets. 50 million passengers comes to $150 million for the airline. Do you think they're going to give that money for health care coverage? How much of it? 10%? Where's the other $140 million going to go? In the pocket. Thank you for your time, answers, and attention.
Zuma Dog is our next speaker, and Van Nuys. Mr. Smith, but just before that, did you want to...
Just a point of clarification that the police officers of the LA airport are sworn police officers under California Penal Code Section 830.3. They are defined as police officers, have all the authority of a police officer, and you're incorrect in your statement. And as far as the LAPD officers that are assigned there, the airport department says we don't need them there anymore because they've doubled their police force and they can handle the airport.
Thank you for those clarifications. Zuma Dog is our next speaker in Van Nuys. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Hey, what kind of shot is that, y'all? What kind of shot is that? First of all, I'd like to say hello to the nice young ladies that are sitting there in the front row. They're getting ready to leave but then they heard Zuma Dog coming up, so they decided to stay. Thank you. Now, I hope they should plug their ears now because we got some serious city business. First of all, Alarcon felt threatened by Michael Hunt. I do believe that there's a metal detector when he walked in, and I do believe that Mr. Alarcon is protected by cops with guns. So what kind of threat is that? Eric Garcetti, who I want the people at home to know, he should not have interrupted Michael Hunt when he was speaking without his hood. Hey, I want the city attorney, Carmen Nuch-Tutanich, to sit down the council presidents and have a Brown Act seminar on the heels of the ACLU. You will be receiving a letter from ACLU. And understand what the Brown Act is. It means you don't interrupt speakers to inject your opinions and then say, oh, well, you asked, and so, So the PA... Cut that out, you understand? Because I'm here to say we will be going much further, and I don't like Councilmember Herb Wesson. The guy doesn't say anything. He's a silent council member except when he's handing out puppies. I don't want to hear him weighing in on First Amendment at all and do any type of further crackdown. And I'd like to warn City Council, although it was extremely offensive and insidious wearing what he wore the other day, you should not have walked out, you cowardly stunt people. That was a stunt. You didn't all of a sudden decide that you were offended and all had to walk out. You could have turned your backs. You could have walked into the back room.
If you could lower your voice, Mr. Dog.
Hey, and if you can quit interrupting me when it's not to get it.
Sir, when you're being disruptive, I will hold your time and I will ask you to please lower your voice so that you can communicate your ideas and not disrupt the meeting. Thank you. Go ahead. You still have another 17 seconds left.
That was 8 seconds extra. So let me tell you, those interruptions are going to be stopping. You should have sat there. People waited 2 hours. They didn't get to talk. You left city business on the table. You left city business on. It was selfish of you. And the final thing, very selfish of you.
So you're still yelling at us right now, so thank you for your comments today. We'll now have Walter Bechtel as our next speaker, and after that will be Ken Bush. And just for everybody who's here from the public, again, we do have a code of conduct there on the podium and in Van Nuys as well. We ask people to just respectfully address. You can have a lot of protected speech that is there, but where it's being disruptive or unduly loud, repetitive, slanderous, we ask folks to, that is not protected speech, and we ask folks to stop. Mr. Bechtel, very good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you, and thank you for taking some action on that situation there. I think that the council should know that just because somebody is exercising his freedom of speech doesn't give him a right to impinge upon other people's right to freedom of speech. That is like graffiti. The people who wave banners of graffitis all over the city saying, I'm exercising my freedom of speech. And at the same time, they're painting and vandalizing and doing other things there that they shouldn't be doing. I don't think that too many people understand the meaning of the Ninth Amendment of the Constitution that says that rights that are provided here by these amendments are not intended to usurp or impede or impinge upon the other rights that are provided in these civil rights or these the rights that are provided by the Constitution. So even though it may be some kind of freedom of speech, if it's impinging upon other freedoms, and it's not legal. It's also it's a violation of the Ninth Amendment and the other parts of the Constitution. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bechtel. Ken Bush is our next speaker, and after that is Matt Dowd.
About 3 years ago, LDS Apostle Boyd K. Packer delivered first reported on a shocking threat to religious liberties in America. Of all the colleges in the United States originally chartered by religious orders, only once was still under the direct administration of the religion which established it. He then said that, delivered an even more clear warning of the truth that lay beneath America's constitutional guarantee that no law shall prohibit the free exercise of religion. The truth that lay beneath it is there's not a voice in America as governing an economic order defending religious education and the property rights of the church. Packer said that there was serious doubt about whether the church was going to be able to maintain control over Brigham Young University. One wonders how such a conversation between Education Management Corporation and church representative might have progressed. One can imagine that it might have begun and ended with the corporation president saying thuggishly, "Today this university is yours, next week it's mine. Got it?" Rendering a religion's influence over its universities irrelevant, and no competition to the new religion, the one which is encompassed in all governing and economic constructs of today, pagan fascism. We're left to wonder which tactic may have been used to achieve the next outcome when the mayor of Los Angeles informed the Los Angeles Unified School District that he would be commandeering 2 of the lower performing schools and turning them over to so-called nonprofits. The ungranted power to form a privatized national education system puts a child's education beyond the reach of local representative democracy by transparently rendering local elected governing bodies, school boards, irrelevant. Quoting from the article I'm holding here in my hand, teens were beaten, tortured, and denied food and water. The General Accounting Office admits to 10 deaths resulting from the privatized education of children. When the warped pathos of privatization are enmeshed with the Nazi science and the anti-democratic state-centric society, the result is an authoritarian government and its National Socialist command economy. When imposing themselves on the lives of children, the outcome is destructive to intellectual, emotional, social, and psychological development, and is often deadly, not by accident or reckless disregard, but by design.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Matt Dowd.
All right, thank you. Yes, I got comments to make to the City Council. Weak as hell. Weak. Herb Wesson, I think, is weak. The performance is weak. Eric Garcetti, the council presidency, he's the guy who took an illegal campaign contribution from his dad, and this is the truth about the guy running this meeting, illegal contribution from his dad, who was the president of the ethics. See, this is an Adam Sandler movie right here. You know, the guy with the gun with the ethics. You asked him what's ethics, and he blamed it on his mum. He blamed it on his mum, and Janice Hahn, the chair of the Board of Referred Powers, had to take control of the meeting and reprimand him because he blamed his mommy for a campaign contribution that was illegal, and his dad was an ethics commission president. And he's trying to tell someone not to wear a hood. Look, the guy in the KKK outfit was in the police commission across the road, Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD. Chief Bratton was there. You had attorneys, you had all the commissioners, you had the public. Not one person got up and was threatened or said anything, and they had the chief of police there. Not one person. He had his comment in the hood on TV because it's legal and the chief of police says so. So how can Councilman Weak Alarcon, with the fancy little thing over his O on his name...
Sir, I would ask you to stay away from personal remarks, please.
How can he be threatened by America? That's American what he's doing. You're un-American. It's so un-American, I'm disgusted and appalled. Now, a federal judge just gave my attorney $207,000 as an award because we won.
Thanks, sir. That will close our general public comment. Vigorous, as always. Now we'll turn to items that are called special. Business before the people. If we can now take up the first item called special.
Item 1 was called special for cards.
We have item 1 before us first. We have Zuma Dog and Van Nuys, to be followed by Arnold Sachs. Do we have anybody in Van Nuys? Mr. Dog?
What? Yes, hello?
There you are, sir. Item number 1.
I'm on the phone with City Attorney Carmen Tutanich.
Sir, are you ready with number 1?
What's number 1 about? You know what? Let's just
I'll
pass.
take that as a no.
Next,
pass. Arnold Sachs is our speaker, and then we have Michael Hunt after that.
Mr. President, before you start my clock, would we be allocated extra time as I requested? Could you answer that question first?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Point of clarification. I appreciate Councilman Smith clarifying the sworn officers.
I'm sorry, sir, we can't do the debate back and forth on this. We have to, item number 1.
Is that they're not
Sir,
sworn LAPD.
we're on parking structures right now. You can have that conversation separately, but please, we're on item 1. We've warned before.
As far as the parking rate structures, I'd like to know what's being done or what's going to be looked into regarding the mayor's proposal to sell the parking structure, the parking lots, as they have done in Chicago, to raise the fees to help that city in its budget deficit problems. Has that still been looked into? Is there somebody going to look, a committee that will enter into those discussions, or this is just General Services Department? What about parking lots that are not run by the GSD? And again, not sworn LAPD.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. I think his left. Mr. Dowd? All right, that will close on item 1, sir.
Going twice, and here I am. Okay, yes, see, they're always doing this. I want to talk about the parking in the city. The city council and the mayor, they're wrecking it. These are the kind of things they're doing. They're always raising the rates because they're in this budget deficit right now. They took their eye off the ball. They lost all the money that the city had for all the firemen and the police you see working here. They all pay their money into a fund. The city lost it, so now they're going to look for every way they can to find money and scrape it out of everyone and anyone. Downtown, the parking's tripled. You're just wrecking the city. It's going to be a ghost town, and it's just going to be full of homeless on Skid Row, and it's all because you can start right here with this parking thing. Oh my goodness, there's none even around City Hall. That's how they're trying to get rid of us in public comment.
All right, now we'll close our public comment for this item. If we can please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 5 was called special for amendments, and there are amendments 5A and B that have been circulated.
Okay, those have been circulated. Any members wishing to speak on item 5? If not, let's go ahead and accept those as friendly amendments. And please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next items, please.
Item 6 called special for cards.
Item number 6 is next before us. Zuma Dog and Van Nuys.
Yes, let's talk about this. And boy, I don't have to talk loud at all because we're talking about federal stimulus money. Let me tell you, and by the way, if I'm coming across too loud, and by the way, since Eric uses the word dumb and stupid, why doesn't somebody not be dumb and stupid and turn the speaker down there if it's coming out too loud? Don't be ridiculous.
We'll try to, sir, but there's a little bit of feedback. I know I've discussed it with you before. When you're that close to the microphone, we get a lot of feedback, and it actually damages some of the equipment. So if you could just speak a little further back, we will hear you more clearly and enjoy your comments even more.
Okay, and of course I get 10 seconds extra. Okay, so anyway, federal stimulus money, City Council, be very aware of how you spend this. I'm here to tell you, Barack Obama is sending Rahm Emanuel down to City Hall because you took the money and you backspent it on things like not shovel-ready jobs, okay? Not shovel-ready jobs. I'm here to tell you people, let's just get down to nuts and bolts, and I'm going to go into the next minute about this. I'm here to tell you people, Antonio Villaraigosa is in big trouble. He got the city in big trouble. Eric Garcetti, with his ties to Henry Cisneros and workforce housing and the pension money, he's in big trouble. Barack Obama
Sir,
is
you're
not...
entitled to say that stuff in public comment, but if you could please, we are right now have American Recovery and Reinvestment Act money stuff before us, and that's if you could please discuss that.
Look at this, people. Look at this. It's all tied in, and I'm here to, let's just get down to it. I'm here to say there's going to be indictments in Los Angeles City Hall by Barack Obama in August or September. These council members you are looking at have failed you. They have taken the money for shovel-ready jobs and squandered it. They have bankrupted this city, and I do not trust them with this money at all. This is federal money to provide people relief, and I'm telling you, the people never get what they're supposed to. They never get it. That's why Laura Chick's in Sacramento, and I'm here to say, and I got extra time now, and everybody in the city knows it. Eric Garcetti, I believe, will be in big trouble over the things that he is approving from Barack Obama. And finally, the reason Eric didn't get any cabinet appointments with Obama is because he knows the federal stuff that's coming down. See you in prison, I hope.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dog. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker.
I got all year.
Federal stimulus funds. Meeting the guidelines for the federal stimulus funds. Maybe you've been following in the LA Times or the fact that the government, the state government, could be in trouble because they may lose federal funding because they're illegally planning on taking funding from education to prop up the deficit that they're spending, and it may cause them to have a shortfall, which will jeopardize the federal funds that the state gets. So, that being said, meeting the requirements. You need to meet requirements? You need to meet requirements at LAWA. You need to meet requirements at the harbor to get the federal funding that pours in like a torrent, but is spent at a trickle. Funding for first class, delivering coach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Matt Dowd.
Yes, thank you. I'll try and translate Zumadog. Basically, the city's in the biggest hole probably it's ever been in financially right now. Huge. They appointed these commissioners, lost a bunch of money in the shadiest real estate in Wall Street and all kind of dumb, stupid, and offensive things because the council president says you're allowed to say those words because he called that guy that. Anyway, they're in a giant hole, and you can tell how deep the hole is because there's KKK at the bottom of it. But anyway, Obama's got all this money, federal money, to stimulate the economy, and it's meant to go into projects that create jobs immediately. But the city of Los Angeles is trying to use the money and has used it, and it's channeling it in all these places it's not meant to be going. Stop.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this? We had a card with no name. Okay. If not, go ahead and that'll be our last speaker on this. Any members of the City Council, just as a point of information for public, and we did have the committee meeting before this one on our ad hoc committee on economic recovery and reinvestment. We do have 73 grant applications that have been awarded $289 million thus far, and at recovery.lacity.org you can see the principles that we're using for all of our economic recovery monies that are coming into the city and all the projects that have been applied for and the status of them. It's broken out also, I believe, by a geographical area as well. Let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 17, called special for cards.
Okay, we have item number 17. Mr. Dowd, if you'd like to come forward on item 17.
Oh my goodness. Hollywood Walk of Fame. I want to talk about this process. Rip Cameron Diaz's star out of the Hollywood. That's the first thing, because this process is not being undertaken properly. You're installing these things before they're even approved, before they have public comment. I was at Van Nuys for the Cameron Diaz one, and Dennis Zine denied the public comment, so it's a Brown Act violation. So there's one star already that needs to be ripped out. Cameron Diaz, take that star out of Hollywood Boulevard. This one, you better make sure you have all the public comment, because I'm going to be watching. This is going to be in another one of the ACLU lawsuits, or maybe one of mine. You know we're on to this, so thank you for the public comment. Do the process according to the Brown Act.
Mr. Hunt is our next speaker.
We're making progress. Let's give everybody a hand. We're making progress.
Can we put the robe back on? Let's go ahead. I'll close the public comment on this item. Sorry? No, just the robe, not the hat. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 18, called special for cards.
Item 18 is next before us, and we have Dr. Clyde Williams.
I agree. Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno. As a child, I actually saw the KKK. And yes, it was threatening to me when I first saw his sheet. However, I remembered this is America. It wasn't the Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas of 1955. So, last year, special events consumed maybe $5 million. This year, it looks like it's targeted to spend maybe $2 million. Oh, progress. However, there's piecemealing going on because not all the special events are under item 18. There's also 19, 27, and 28. There's also a matter as to references to the sponsors will reimburse the city. Has there ever been an audit of anything more than $1,000 being reimbursed to the city or not being reimbursed to the city? Money. The neighborhood councils have severe audit requirements. They have to justify everything. However, it does not appear to be the same rules being applied to the special events of the city council members. So I would highly recommend that when you do the special events revisions, include auditing of any sponsor reimbursements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Zuma Dog is our next speaker on item 18.
Pass, pass, pass.
Okay. Mr. Sachs is our next speaker on item 18.
Good morning. Thank you, Arnold Sachs. Well, I'd like to congratulate the mayor. He has certainly opened up this loophole by allowing and stating that LA, a first-class city, will cover the cost of the Jackson special event. All you need to do now, have your special event. Add a wake, a New Orleans-type ceremony. You're honoring the dead presidents that are being sent and spent by this council ridiculously. And the mayor said city will cover a funeral. So you're honoring dead presidents. It's a funeral. It's a wake. It's an honor. When they bill you, tell them to see AEG. They got a free ride. Why can't you? Why shouldn't it be available to all citizens, all community associations, all civic groups? Why shouldn't they be allowed the same kind of leeway as AEG? Reason? Their pockets aren't as deep. What a farce.
Matt Dowd is our next speaker on item 18.
So, first of all, I'd like to know if we had like a faux KKK block party, would we get funding from the city? Would that qualify for one of these special events? Because they hand it out for anything. Cookie cutting ceremonies. You know, like apple pie tasting. Let's have those in a $7 billion budget deficit. Let's go have a cookie cutting ceremony and throw a couple of $1,000 because we need a bunch of police out there to stop all the people who are just jamming their way in the street to try and taste and get those cookies cut. Oh my God, I love this. So much money getting wasted in the city, and you know, some of them are good. And you know what? This is the one thing, girls and Channel 35 and City Council and the attorneys, that we did hammer in here, because when we first came here in 2006, these things were just going left, right, and center. $60,000 for the Academy Awards, and then there was the Golden Globes, and then this and that, and the Al Greedo, and all the politicians here, they all went and had some fancy dinner and a big show, and it was $60,000. So we kind of knocked a few of those on the head, thankfully, because of the ex-councilman who used to be here, Jack Weiss. See, he got voted out because he was probably the shadiest of all. He was never here. And he was the one who actually brought the memo to stop these fee waivers. And it took 7 years before anything happened. And so because it took so long, the voters said, you know what, Jack Weiss, we're tired of you. We don't want to wait for you to act on the billboards. The traffic on the west side's a nightmare. So thankfully, at least, finally, we did something that saves money for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
That will close our comments for item 18. Any members wishing to be heard? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 21, called special for cards.
Okay, item 21 is before us. We have one card from Zuma Dog in Van Nuys.
Yes, and there are so many items today, but this is 2 minutes. It's very important. Whenever parcel maps, tract maps, come through the agenda, I feel it's always the most important thing to discuss because it opens it up to how there's way too much density in the city of Los Angeles. And the number one reason why I want to know on all tract maps, water crisis. We do not have enough water. Everybody thanks Zuma Dog on the street. Thank you for talking about the water. You're right. They're crazy. Because I'm here to tell you, you can make the decision to say you're going to jam up the city with so much traffic that who cares, and you can sit in 3 hours traffic, too bad people. You can say that we don't have enough cops and police. You can say that you're going to be bankrupt and you can't even provide the city services for these buildings you're building. And all the crime, you can't do anything about the graffiti. And every time you improve these high densities, it makes it worse. But water, that's what you don't have enough of. You must vote no.
I will close our public comment on this item. There are no speakers on the queue. Let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 22, called special for cards.
Okay, and I know Mr. Rosendahl also called that special. Item 22. We have one speaker card first.
No, I just want to preface it.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
By
Rosendahl.
saying that my colleague Ed Reyes wanted me to give you this opportunity to speak and explain it, and so as courtesy to my colleague, I was very helpful and hopeful, and I'm glad that he's here. Thank you.
We'll reopen the public hearing on it. Mr. Said, if you'd like to come forward again, please.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity to give in to me to speak about this. At the last meeting that I asked for continuation of this matter because of the record that I have is conflict with what the building and safety provided to me. I provided some of the record for the building and safety that one of the businesses has not been there from January of the 2007, but their record indicates that there was several inspections from 2007 all the way to 2008. These record and document and copies I have provided to the building and safety for examining, and I'm waiting for the other document to be given to me by the other businesses that they have the claim that they have paid for the inspection, and then the couple of occasions there was some violation from the building and safety has come to them, and then they resolve the matter with the building and safety. But the building and safety, they said that these matters still is an issue and is outstanding. So I like to have an opportunity to give me another couple of weeks time to provide all the document that necessary for building and safety if we can resolve this matter once and all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rosendahl?
I could ask him to come up and respond to that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Said. If we can ask building safety to come forward to the table.
Great shirt you got on. Could you introduce yourself for the record, sir?
Yeah, my name is Charles Kalibala. I'm an employee with the Department of Building and Safety, and I'm here to represent the department on item number 22. This deals with address 3900 North Figueroa, which is owned by three different people, Mr. Kolahi, Mr. Dabiri, and Mr. Sayed. Mr. Sayed is just one of the owners, and we've done everything possible to send them invoices for the inspections that were performed by the Department of Building and Safety, but the property owners and their tenants have failed to pay all the invoices. In fact, they keep giving us excuses and claiming that the inspections didn't take place, and we don't agree with that. We've done everything in our powers to collect these invoices. All efforts have failed. That's why the department is proposing a lien of $1,871 on this property.
And so building and safety's position is clearly go forward with the motion that's before us?
Yes, building and safety wants to do that.
And what about his comments of working things out with him?
Well, he's simply not aware of what's happening at the property. There are 2 units at the properties. They've been inspected by inspectors. Many inspections have taken place. We've interviewed the business operators. All the inspections have taken place. He's simply not aware of that. He either is not in touch with his tenants or something's going on. He keeps claiming that he didn't receive the notice of unpaid. We issue notices of unpaid invoices for invoices that haven't been paid. He keeps claiming that he didn't receive them. So he's just giving excuses. The code 98.0402, which we are basing for
How
this
long has this
inspection-
conversation, this discussion, this interaction with your office been? How long of a time frame?
The time frame is over 7 years with the businesses themselves, but talking with him, we just talked for the past maybe 2 months. But I've been working with the business operators themselves for the past 7 years. Our inspectors have been doing all the inspections over the years. Every year an annual inspection is performed on all auto-related businesses throughout the city, including his, and a lot of business operators simply don't want to respond, they don't want to pay. It's a struggle to get them to pay, and they give all kinds of excuses.
Okay, well, thank you. And Mr. President, Mr. Reyes wants us to move forward with this. We've heard both testimony from the gentleman in the community and from Building and Safety.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosenthal. Thank you as well. We have item 22, recommendation of the action to move forward with the lien against the property. If there's nobody else on the queue, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 24, called special for cards.
Okay. Item 24 is now before us. Mr. Sachs, if you'd like to come forward.
Good afternoon. Arnold Sachs, LADWP, maintenance of high transmission lines right away. This implies also somewhat for the public maintenance of the high transmission lines themselves. Yet, wasn't it several years ago there was a fire in the Wilderness area where the lines fell into a right-of-way, starting a huge fire? Will LADWP, what's the update on the maintenance of those right-of-ways? What's the update of the relationship between the right-of-way owner and the transmission line owner? What's the update on the maintenance of the underground cables throughout the city of LA? Wasn't there a fire in an underground cable vault that killed a fireman in LA, in Westchester? 19,000 miles of cabling under the city. That was last year. You had to hear them come back and say, this is where we stand on our program. When is the council going to hold them accountable? More talk, less action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. There are no other cards on this item, so if we can go ahead and prepare the roll on 24 and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 25, called special for cards.
We have one card from Van Nuys. Mr. Dog on 25.
I'll pass on that one.
Okay, he passes. We'll go ahead and prepare the roll on 25 and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 26, called special for cards.
Mr. Sachs on item 26.
Thank you again. Arnold Sachs. Fortunately, this is an item that the state legislation hasn't acted on, so you may be able to get a message in. But how about sending a message to the state legislation regarding the perks that they have, as with the vehicles? That seems to be a real sore point. How about sending a message to the state legislation regarding the IOUs that the state's issuing? Maybe they should issue IOUs to the legislation and pay the state workers with the cash instead of issuing IOUs to the state workers and paying the legislators with cash. Maybe you could also issue a rebuke to the county for paying county judges for $48,000 each, the county superior court judges, while the courts have to take a furlough day because of budget constraints. Maybe these are some of the things the city council can issue or look into. Or, then again, maybe not, because the next time you do something will be the first time you do something. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. Our next speaker is Mr. Dowd, item 26.
See, of course they want to vote yes on this, because this is a state bill. I'm just going to explain this to the people what's going on, because most people just, they're asleep on their TVs right now. The state wants to make it easier to push through taxes, and how they want to do it is make it that less people need to vote to approve it. Obviously, it used to be 66%. They tried to push through all this thing to get a bunch of taxes out of us at the state level, and they try and do it in the city. They lie on the descriptions. In fact, I'll retract that. They bend the truth on the description, so the voters are already getting hoodwinked. When they go to the poll, they go, oh yeah, firefighters, this is lovely, let me vote yes. But no, and that's why it's 66. It's a two-third majority, because these are taxes. And so the city, and it just shows you the kind of city we're dealing with, and I'm so sad that people have to grow up and take over this wrecked city that you've left the people from your retaliatory, confrontational attitudes with all the people who are trying to help. 2 years ago, we told you the whole market was going to drop out and things were going to collapse. All the money, and nobody listens. See, nobody here. It's all business as usual. They're more important, they're more concerned about what you wear and how you fill out these cards than they are about any of these real issues like homelessness, and AIDS and all kind of state things that are getting cut. So that's what this is about, though. It's shady. It's trying to make it easier to put through taxes. Why don't someone just get up and say that?
That is our final public speaker on this. Mr. Koretz is our first speaker on this.
Well, I think this is a great idea, obviously, because I had the experience of being in the legislature, and people have no idea, unless they've actually gone through it, how dysfunctional the legislative process is and has become because of the two-thirds requirement. Back when it was functional, before term limits, and when people had relationships, which they developed over long periods of time, in emergencies, a Republican could vote for a tax. But it's not the way things work anymore. They're literally precluded by their caucus from doing it. When the Republican votes for a tax, even in this dire emergency, their caucus has threatened and in reality will actually take them out. They'll sponsor recalls, they'll defeat them. So in reality, there's no ability to pass a tax, no matter how dire the circumstance. And this is critical for us because we're getting burned as a result. As a city, this is going to cost us hundreds of millions of dollars purely because of the way the process doesn't work. It's not the fact that the state is just dealing with a bad economy. It's equally the dysfunction at the state level. And this is no attack on Republicans. You look at the way this works, it's exactly opposite here. Republicans and Democrats work together to resolve a difficult budget. At the state level, because of the two-thirds budget, it's exactly the opposite. Even when it was functional, Republicans who did vote for the budget would get millions of dollars in otherwise unnecessary pork projects for their district as a bribe to take the heat to be the one to vote for the budget. That was a dysfunctional waste of money. But the way the process works now, it's just impossible. It's a disaster of epic proportions. It's purely caused by the two-thirds budget. And I think we shouldn't just pass this. We should actually be a major player in trying to fight for this change as a city. I think we have to direct our lobbyists to do whatever we can. We should be looking as council members to physically become involved in the campaign for it, because this is literally life and death. There are people in the state of California and people in the city of Los Angeles that are literally going to die because we have a 2/3 budget requirement and it has screwed up our budget process as badly as it has. So I think this is a great idea, but we have to be as active as we possibly can in fighting for it.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. We have Mr. Huizar, followed by Mr. Parks, Mr. Garcetti, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Wesson. Mr. Huizar, you're up.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'll keep my comments brief because we all know what a terrible situation we find ourselves in throughout the state because we haven't passed a state budget. And as it was mentioned, a lot of this has to do with our 2/3 requirement. But I wanted to highlight that one of the reasons I put forward this motion, along with Mr. Garcetti, is that there's a lot of talk around the state to do something about this. And I wanted to make sure that the city of Los Angeles is on record supporting this change, but that we are not only on record, but as Mr. Koretz mentioned, that we actively do something about this. Because as you all know, the city is definitely hurt when the state does not pass its budget on time. Here we are now looking at some dramatic cuts to our budget, to our transportation dollars, to our redevelopment dollars, to our ability to get our fair share of property taxes, when we've already passed our own budget, and we may have to go back to the table to make some changes because the state has not passed its budget. And that certainly is going to affect the way we operate and what we had planned to do for this upcoming fiscal year. You know, we are only one of 3 states in the nation that has a 2/3 requirement. And the other 2 states both have more than 70% members of both legislatures from the same political parties. And we are very different here, so certainly you could even say we are in a category of our own, and the nation has noted that. Throughout the United States, the nation continues to talk about how dysfunctional our budget process is at the state level. We need to change this, and hopefully we get active not only in the state level, in the state legislature, but also with the activists who are forming conventions and conventions to look at our state constitution. We need to be there as well to be loud and clear that this is not acceptable and we need to something to change this. So thank you for your support on this, and I'm very happy to see that we have our own legislators here, Mr. Wesson, Mr. Koretz, and our former budget, chair of the Assembly Budget, Tony Cardenas, and Mr. Alarcon, who can share with us their experience, and they also note how important it is to change this. So thank you for your support on this. I ask for an A vote.
Mr. Parks, followed by Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to say I talked to Jose on this, and that I think that the issues about the budget is unfortunate that we can't get a budget done because we have to wait for it. But one of the concerns I have on the strict 50% or over 50% is that depending on what party's in, they could just ramrod the budget in any fashion they want. Prior to Prop 16, there was a caveat of 5%, that if it was 50%, if it went above 5% increase in the budget, it went to 2/3. What I would like to see and make a motion is that to ensure that there's some issues of protection for unintended consequences, that we have a 50% vote, as long as the budget doesn't go 5% over or 5% low, which doesn't allow people to cut it drastically or increase it drastically without that larger vote requirement. If it stays within that parameter, then it would be something in which you can go with the 50%. I would be very concerned if we eliminated the 2/3 completely with no caveats as it relates to the growth or cut of the budget without some further or more extensive review. I think as long as the state is set up as a partisan group, the lack of cooperation is going to be there. And I think with the when 2/3 are gone, you'll have even less cooperation because people say, I have the votes, I don't even have to discuss it. And we find often that's not the best policy. Just as we are here today in the Council nonpartisan, we get to vote on what we choose to vote on. We have no one that's punishing us one way or another. But the issue is, I think that's not what exists in the state. And I'd hate to see an unintended consequence where we have a complete changeover of the state Senate or the Assembly, and you just ramrod things through with no regard for the view or the circumstances of a different point of view. And it did work for a long while up until Prop 16 removed the 5% above. And I would just recommend to make a motion that we add the 5% above and below as the caveat for the two-thirds. Anything between that would be at the 50% level.
Is there a second?
Second. Second by Mr. Weezer. Mr. Labange, a third. Very well. Mr. Garcetti.
Mr. Alcone, I think, wanted to make an introduction of a friend who is here.
Yeah, just for the purposes of introduction, I'd like to recognize Senator Kevin Murray.
Where is he, sir?
Now retired Senator Kevin Murray. But Kevin Murray was my seatmate in Sacramento for 8 years.
Can we get the camera on him? Can we get the
one
camera
of
on
the
Mr.
brightest
Murray?
people in the legislature during that time. It was my pleasure to serve with him. Good to see him.
Hold on a second. Let's get you on camera. There you go. Get a close-up of Mr. Kevin Murray, a good friend of the LA City Council. Thank you. All right, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I want to thank you, Mr. Weezer, for introducing this, and I was proud to join you on it. To quote the website of Repair California, which is holding one of our Constitutional Convention pre-meetings here in Los Angeles tomorrow, and I invite members of the public. I wish they hadn't charged in this one. I'm not one of the organizers, but I'm speaking tonight. There's one in Santa Monica tonight, USC tomorrow. I'll be speaking on a panel in the morning. Californians are angry. Our schools are failing. Our infrastructure is crumbling. And we are looking at our prisons overcrowding. We are looking at a legislature that can't pass budgets or reforms. The rules that we have passed have to change in order for California to repair itself. The two states that Mr. Weezer mentioned are Rhode Island and Arkansas. Those two economic powerhouses are the only two other states that require a two-thirds majority vote for their budget. It's ironic in this state, as we saw with the vote on Prop 8, you can take someone's civil rights away with a majority vote, but it takes a two-thirds vote just to pass a budget. All it leads to is gridlock. All it leads to is disservice, and what it does, for those who are concerned about their taxes, is it means that the government is relying on raiding our local taxes. Here's what's on the table right now in the budget deal in Sacramento. Is everybody so happy that a deal's coming together? Wait till you hear this if you live in Los Angeles. It would be a permanent take of our gas tax. Every single time that you go and you fill up your car and you pay that extra amount on the gas that's supposed to go back to our streets and our roads and stuff, suddenly that is zeroed out and we don't have money to do that at all anymore. We can't stop paving our streets altogether, so what does that mean? We'll have to take money out of our public safety, out of our fire, our police, other things. It's a borrow against our property tax, which is better because at least under Prop 1A, the people of California, this is an earlier 1A, said you can't take any more from local government, but you can borrow against. We could take out a bond in the meantime, and then they have to repay that loan. But then on top of that, they're looking at taking half of all of the redevelopment dollars in the state. Half, ladies and gentlemen. That means at a time when people don't have jobs, when we need construction, when we need all of these things that are happening, that money is going to be taken away just at the moment when that would help us bring about an economic recovery. Projects like the W Hotel that's happening in Hollywood, where we have living wage jobs at the hotel, where we have great construction jobs, where we have affordable housing on top of a subway stop. That's the sort of thing in intelligent planning that would help us get to a better city and to recover from this economic downturn. When we look at what's happening right now, if you care, not only have we had resolutions on the cuts, on people right now who need AIDS money, who are not going to get AIDS medications that they need. When we look at the summer school being stopped altogether, and then we wonder what's going to happen with youth crime and intervention and things like that this summer. We need to change this. A two-thirds requirement was good at a time when it made sense and which people had a common purpose. And I agree with you, Mr. Parks. One of the nice things about serving here is we have people who happen to be Republican, happen to be Democrats, some who probably think of themselves as independents. But not one of us is disempowered. There are 15 people in every constituent in Los Angeles has their voice heard because they have somebody who has an equal vote. Up in Sacramento, if they went to a nonpartisan legislature, it would probably be the best thing that we could ever do. But short of that, we need action. We need to actually move forward and allow people to pass a budget. We have a rule right here in the city of Los Angeles that it's a majority vote. And guess what? We didn't sock this all away and have it go someplace bad. We have the highest bond rating, basically, of any big city in America, while California has near junk bond ratings of theirs. So if you're a fiscal conservative, a majority vote is actually a smarter way to protect local taxes. It's a smarter way to see budgets get through. And when we get those bond ratings go down, that sounds like an abstract thing. That costs California a lot. And we need to repair California, and this is a good first step.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti, Mr. Rosendahl, followed by Mr. Wesson, Mr. Alarcon, and Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm really looking forward to Mr. Wesson's comments as a former Speaker of the Assembly, and Mr. Alarcon, another member of the Sacramento family. Folks, we've had it. I've had it. The state government is dysfunctional on many levels. I'm calling for a constitutional convention. I am part of a program tonight at Santa Monica College at the Broad Stage at 11th and Santa Monica Boulevard. We're going to start at 6:30 in the evening. It'll be a healthy discussion. Julia Brownlee's coming from Sacramento and others. And I'm going to take the perspective from a city perspective. But we need a constitutional convention to address all these issues. Number one, we need to restructure our budget. I was chair of the Commission on Taxing Policy for the New Economy, which was to restructure the tax system. We did a 2-year set of 17 hearings around the state, and we had a consensus, as Mr. Garcetti said. It was a nonpartisan group, and we were able to bring all positions into the fold. I presented the final report to Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. This study, which was something suggested by the legislature and I was chair of course has collected dust in Sacramento. Now Karen Bass, rightly so, has talked about a blue ribbon committee with another opportunity to look at our structure for budgets. I'm looking forward to that report. So number one, we got to restructure the budget and the budget process in Sacramento. We can't have it the way it is, totally dysfunctional, IOUs on the street. Secondly, we need a constitutional convention for political reform. This 6-year term limit is insane. By the time they figure out how to get around Sacramento, they're out of there, and it's the lobbyists and the bureaucrats that run it if you're there for only 6 years. You can barely figure out your job, and then you're out of there. That should be at least 12 years, if not, free enough for people to make that decision all the time. And we also, frankly, need a third thing called, and I just want to call it the initiative process. It's totally dysfunctional. The initiative process to be more effective. If you're a special interest, you have to let those signature gatherers know you are. And if you're a regular group of citizens, you need to have easy access for the initiative. We have to reform the initiative process. And lastly, frankly, we need to deal with political reform. I'm talking about clean money as I'm saying about that. We need to get that going. So let's get the budget reform. Let's get the initiative process. Let's deal with the civil rights aspect, which also, by the way, as a gay guy, I can't believe that the courts on one level say we have basic human and civil rights, and then an initiative says we don't. That's 50% plus one. So if we work forward with this, I think the state is at a time now where the dysfunctional Sacramento scene has to stop. Let's have a constitutional convention. Let's put it all on the table. Let's restructure our great state. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Wesson, former Speaker of the California State Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. This is one heck of a dilemma, as I guess I'm the only member of this body that actually was part of the Big Five, where we would sit down and try to negotiate a budget. The way the system is currently set up, I think it was Mr. Koretz or Mr. Weezer, and it was Mr. Garcetti, and all of you have done an excellent job, by the way. There are only 3 states in America where there's a 2/3 requirement. We in Los Angeles, I don't think we have a lot in common with the state of Arkansas. Not saying that as a derogatory statement towards Arkansas or Rhode Island. We are our own unique animal. The winds in this country blow from the west to the east. People look to us. The system was not always dysfunctional, was not always that bad. The Democrats, Republicans, at the end of the day, somehow would come together and get it done. Term limits, without a doubt, as Bill referenced, has had a negative effect. The entire system needs to be changed.
There you go.
This state, the majority party is the Democratic Party. So you would think that the agenda in the state government would be led by the Democrats, or if it was the Republicans, vice versa. But it's not. The minority party at budget time, and whenever there's a two-thirds vote, that's when they control the state budget. And I don't think that that's what Californians wanted. If they wanted the minority party to control the state budget, the minority party would not be the minority party. It would be the majority party. The state needs to do whatever they can to alter the way they did business. I understand Mr. Parks' concern. In fact, Mr. Parks, I think the last time the legislature tried to alter the vote threshold, they said, hey, we don't need just 50% plus one. We'll go 55%. So, I mean, I think any adjustment would help the state legislature. You need a total overhaul. You need to look at how the state actually spends money, but more importantly, we do need to look at the revenue streams. In the state, a significant portion of the money that is generated comes from income tax. The rating agencies like to see a stable revenue stream. Income tax is probably the most volatile way to raise money in any state, especially given the economy today. So there needs to be a real discussion about changing how we receive money and adjusting the way that we spend money. But I can tell you without a doubt, that discussion is never going to occur. That discussion will never occur until the threshold to pass a budget is altered. Because you have a minority that at budget time takes control. And Paul referenced the things that you have to do to get the votes. And I will admit to you as Speaker, the arrangements that had to be made, the perks that you would have to give to a various section of the state that really didn't deserve it. And government shouldn't be like that. And I think if the state of California decides to change parties and let the minority party lead the state, then that means the people have spoken, and I could just live with that. So if it's 50%, it is what it is. But I don't believe that that's going to occur. But at least give us an opportunity to try to fix the state. And the only way that that's going to happen, two things need to take place. Number one, we do need to lower the threshold for a budget, and realistically, we do need to modify term limits. And people should not think just because the threshold is being lowered that people are going to want to raise taxes. That is just a campaign ploy used by the minority party to scare the heck out of everybody so that whenever we try something like that, that it doesn't pass. So I think that sometimes you just have to go on record, Mr. Huizar, and we should do this, I think, in a unanimous fashion. I would love to see the day when we would not have to get a two-thirds vote. In fact, Paul, the day that that occurs, you and I and Alarcon will go back. The day they do. But right now, I love being in the city of L.A. Remember I said that they're going to change term limits for you, too.
You want more time, Mr. Wesson? Mr. Alarcon, our former senator from California.
Senator is a permanent designation.
Senator Alarcon.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Well, we're happy to have you as a council
Senator
member.
Murray. It's a permanent designation. The only one in the state, by the way.
There we go.
I think it's real important for us to segregate the two issues. There are a lot of problems with the state. There's no question about that. There are a lot of problems with Los Angeles. But the focus here is on the issue of getting a budget passed. And the solution would be to lower the threshold. And I agree with Mr. Wesson. If it were 60%, I'd support it. If it were 55%, I'd support it. But if it were 50% plus 1, I'd also support it. Anywhere in between would be better than 66 2/3%. But don't get confused by those who try to throw you off from what I believe is a majority belief by the people who vote in California to support a 50% plus 1 majority for budget purposes, because they don't want you to do that. So they say we need to have a constitutional convention. We have to talk about a part-time legislature. We have to do all these other radical things to fix government. No. The answer is, I'm not opposed to a constitutional convention. I might support it. I don't know the dynamics. In fact, one of the questions I have is, do they have a 2/3 vote requirement on resolutions at a constitutional convention? But to me, democracy is about the majority ruling. In the case of the California budget, the minority rules. Republican, not just Republicans, less than 10% of the Republicans refuse to vote. They only need like 10% of the Republicans to vote for the budget. So a very small minority is controlling the budget. So this resolution is, I strongly support it. I've always supported it because I hate to see the gamesmanship. Believe it or not, as a Democrat, my district would lose out because some Republican was bargaining their vote to support the budget and getting all kinds of libraries and all kinds of institutions, and my district that needs it more than that district was losing out. So that's what we have to stop, is that kind of gamesmanship. A simple majority would make that happen. And in the case of the current administration, where the governor is Republican, it's his job to be the voice of the Republicans in that regard. There were provisions for balance in the governmental process. But to me, a simple majority works. It's democracy. That's not to say that minorities aren't ever right. It's only to say that with regard to the California budget, the citizens of California are losing out, and specifically the citizens of Los Angeles are losing out because of the gamesmanship that occurs as a result of minorities gaming the system in Sacramento.
Our final speaker, Mr. Tom LaBonge.
Obviously, it has to come down from 66 2/3. Many people have not made the opportunity to achieve bringing it to the people because of 66 1/3. Ms. Hahn, in her most recent passion to have the funds raised for youth in this city. So are we recommending a level as well, or just to bring it down? This is what I wanted to ask. Is this the 50 plus 1, 55, 60, or what are we recommending? Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller, if you can give an explanation.
Mr. Smith, strike that from the record. He said 70, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith is waiting before he departs.
Yeah. Well, the action before you is sort of, it's a broad action to support any bills that deal with the 2/3 voter requirement. There are currently 4 bills that are working their way through that deal with this in some fashion.
Right. Would it make a sense of this, Council, if we said 55? Or would it make any sense? Does anybody have a feeling?
As the maker of the motion, Mr. LaBonge, is this on? As the maker of the motion, Mr. LaBonge, I think we should keep it broad enough to support us getting away from the 2/3 requirement, because we get stuck in any one particular percentage, it's going to lessen our effectiveness in lobbying for...
I accept the maker of the motion. I thank you, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Thank you, Mr. Miller. And that matter is now... Mr. Weezer, you're up again, or no?
No, I was going to answer that.
Thank you. Okay, I think all questions have been answered. And we are now going to vote on that matter. Open the roll. Close the roll. Your motion was accepted as friendly, Mr. Parks. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
12 ayes. That matter passes. Thank you.
Great.
Hopefully, that will help the state and the budget. Next item, please. Forthwith? Yes, forthwith.
Item 28, call special for cards.
28.
Does he know it?
Dr. Williams. Number 28, sir.
Very good, very good, very good.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Many of our neighbors want to celebrate their Independence Day. However, in this fiscal year, more money goes out, less money comes in. Can we provide $75,000 for a one-day event? No. How about $75,000 for brush clearance? That is, for people whose ancestors did celebrate the Independence Day of Mexico, our southern neighbor. However, these people are here now. They are trying to maintain their independence from poverty, from gangs, and from the violence in our communities by being employed and becoming good citizens of our great city. So if we can give $75,000 for a one-day special event, why can't we give $75,000 for a continuing event? Aztec Rising, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zumadog. Number 28 for Zumadog.
Yes, I'm not an actual doctor. I just play one on TV. Doctor of Shadiness and Corruption. And here it is again, the annual El Grito Shady Fest. Well, first of all, Dr. Clive Williams, a real doctor, it costs more than $75,000. First, the city gives them cash donations, then they do special event fee waivers, and I see it come through multiple times. So last year, it was $125,000 out of the general fund. And after Zumadog's public comment, the mayor said that he was going to cut the funding, but council blocked it. This is no time to be spending this type of money on a music festival. It is commercially sponsored. And most outrageously, there's a VIP area with the mayor and council. So special event fee says open to the public. I hope it's not any paid admission. It's highly sponsored. It's no time to spend on this kind of stuff. And where is my VIP ticket? If you vote yes on this, make sure you have my VIP ticket for this open to the public event.
Thank you, Zumadog. Number 28 is now before us. Open the roll. Oh, Mr. Dowd, you turned one in late, I think. Yes, okay, Matt Dowd. A late card.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just caught this one. I went out, came back, and it's up. Look, Mr. Senator Richard Alarcon, he got it right for a hot second the other day when he had the LACER commissioners in here who lost all the money, and he said, this is not business as usual anymore in this city. It's not business as usual with the LACER commissioners, and it's definitely not business as usual with the El Grito. But where's Mr. Alarcon on this one? I bet you he's picking and choosing which one, when business as usual and when it's not as usual. It's a little shady. It's a lot shady. It's like, oh, no, now I don't want it to be business as usual because it doesn't help me. But this one, he's going to this. I'm sure he's going to the El Grito. Where's my ticket?
That matter is not before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Mr. Alarcon?
I'd be happy to get a ticket for Mr. Dodd to attend the Grito.
All right, there you go. Forthwith on that matter. Next item, please.
Item 29, called special for cards.
Mr. Zumadog on number 29. Zumadog 29.
First of all, I asked for a card too. Secondly, those two hot chicks in the front row that's stroking each other's hair is causing a disruption. I can't concentrate on the meeting. And
Mr. City Attorney?
He should be one that's disruptive and it's violating the rules of the quorum, talking about other people and making other people other than council and making personal comments.
You've been warned, Mr. Zumadog.
yes, and let me say for the record, other people can cause disruptions between me and my friends, and I'll be talking. Hey, Nooch, let's talk about this. It's about community benefits to CD13, the shadiest of districts, because it's Eric Garcetti's district, and I'm here to say they want to take street revenue money for the People's Street furniture revenue, and they want to put it toward salaries. Okay, people, they're supposed to have money to improve the district, and they're taking it for, it says right here, salaries for staff costs. I don't like, it's Zuma Dog. 1 second, please. Yes, I don't, hold on. I don't, it's $150,000. Okay, now there's a reason that money is in there for the street funds. It's to provide street furniture for people like Zuma Dog to sleep on. Okay? And I don't like the fact that just because you take a bunch of money and squander it and waste it and bankrupt the city, and now you don't have time to pay money to pay your own staff, I don't like that you're taking money and transferring it from one to the other. You got money for staff. You already took the Obama federal stimulus money and paid everybody off. All right? Eric Garcetti, you know, I hope that, why don't you just take it, hey, I got an idea, I like it, why don't you just take it and give it to Henry Cisneros, Eric Garcetti, just take it and give it for workforce housing, and that way we can have pension commissioners up there saying the biggest problem in the city with the $7 billion loss is because of the Henry Cisneros.
Mr. Zumerdog, you have to address the council as a whole. Thank you, your time's up. Nick, that matters before us, open the roll.
Mr. President, the substitute motion should be adopted.
Substitute motion on that? Without objection? It's adopted. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, please. Forthwith on that. I think we'll do forthwith on everything. No? But we'll do it on that one. Okay.
Item 30, called special for cards.
Arnold Sachs. He has 8 minutes. Mr. Sachs, I've been informed you've used up your time for today. We thank you for your attendance, and your time is gone, sir, so you're not going to be able to speak on this matter. We're checking to see if your time's up, sir. All right, you got a minute left.
I'll pass and wait for the closed session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sachs. Zumadog, next speaker, number 30.
I hope I could address Dennis directly when I say I do love him so much.
Thank you.
And the district, I love the district. It's beautiful. Track maps. What I don't like are track maps. What these are, people, is blueprint to density. When you're driving around the city and you see, oh, I'm stuck in 3-hour traffic, and by the way, Forbes magazine has now done an article saying LA is the most traffic-infested city, and it's miserable to be here, and it makes people not want to do business here. So when you're stuck in that traffic, and when you hear reports that people are getting fired because the city can't afford to pay people, and they don't have enough money for police and trash removal and fire, and we're facing a real crisis, we can't accommodate more of this stuff. But here's the real problem, and I'm here to say you don't have enough water. It's a water crisis. It's a water emergency. We don't have enough. You keep building, 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 building. You can say you're going to get stuck in traffic, people, and you're going to be screwed in all types of ways. You cannot get around this water issue. I'm here to say it's irresponsible, and I just would like to say for the record, if...
Your time's up, Mr. Dimmadog. Thank you for your comments. Matters not before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Matter passes. Next item.
Mr. President, that does leave the closed session items. However, there is a special one, and the city attorney will speak to the findings.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since the posting of today's agenda, the city has learned from the developer of the Plaza Pacoima Development Project that immediate action is required to close portions of various streets on that project. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Mr. Clerk. No one's on the queue? On the findings, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
On the substance, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Forthwith. Next item, please.
And that now would leave the closed session items, and there are cards on both those items.
We'll hear from the speakers on the closed session items. And those items numbers?
32 and 33.
Number 32, Arnold Sachs, and 33. Mr. Sachs, it's how much time on this? 1 minute. Mr. Sachs, 1 minute on number 32.
Just as a point of clarification, are we allowed to comment on the item, the special item that was put before the city council. We're not allowed to give a comment on that. Why not? We're allowed to, it's...
Mr. City Attorney, respond to that, please.
Actually, if he wants to talk on that, he can.
Thank you. I'd like to talk on both. First, I'd like to have the city attorney, while he was running for this office, it was brought out in the newspaper that there's 500 employees in the city attorney's office. I'd like to know, with that amount of employees, what the percentage is of outhouse counsel that's applied to by the city for cases that can't be heard by in-house counsel, so that we have an idea of what the money is going towards.
I don't know what item he's talking about right now.
Well, I'm talking about the closed session item, if this would be an outhouse counsel item or an in-house counsel item. So my reference, again, to 500 employees.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Thank you for your comments. Your time is up. So that's going to go into closed session. Next item for the public comment, Mr. Clerk. I have a card on 31.
31 was actually continued to next Wednesday.
I think that's the last public speaker we have. Is 33 a closed session item?
Yes, both 32 and 33 are closed session.
We have a card from Mr. Zumadog. 1 minute for Mr. Zumadog. Mr. Zumadog, 1 minute on number 33.
Hold on.
And then we'll go into closed session.
What item is it? Put it up there. I can't see.
33.
Closed session? Oh, is this about the parking? Hold on. Oh, yes, this is about the parking. The city's getting sued because of the money that they're spending for a parking lot downtown for the police. Now, I'm here to say I want the city council to be very cautious. They have a bad habit of tremendously overpaying. And I don't want them to overpay on this. For example, the airport. You might have heard Chris Essel, when she was on the airport commission, she approved $128 million for a parking lot at LAX. Are you kidding me? $128 million for a parking lot. Don't make that mistake with this parking lot. I'll tell you what, I'll sell you a Zumadog shirt, only $3,000. Want to buy this sombrero, City of Los Angeles? $297, okay? You love to overpay for stuff. Hey, this is our money, people. This is tax money. This goes to a general fund. When we're having all types of problems with everything, they're wasting money on parking lots and paying top dollar 40% over.
Thank you, Mr. Zumadog. Your time is up. Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. President, item number 33 could be done in open session unless there is a request to speak on particular matters on that item in closed session.
Colleagues, anyone wish to speak on that? No one wish to speak on that matter? All right. Mr. Garcetti moves the matter.
And on item 33, the recommendation for settlement is the amount of $125,000, and that's the case of Martinez versus City.
Very well. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for being here. Okay, now we're going to go into closed session. We have another closed session item, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, item number 32.
All right, we'll go into closed session now. So, Sergeant Arms, Mr. Rosendahl? I have no idea. go. We're back. Okay. We're now back in open session. Mr. Clerk?
On item 32, there's a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $3,010,000 in the case of Angelo Goose versus City.
All right, on that matter, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 1 no.
Mr. City Attorney, request that forthwith? Your request is forthwith. We'll approve that forthwith. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
Any announcements? Anyone announcements? Mr. LaBonge?
Mr. Parks and I will be tomorrow at the Memorial Coliseum for celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Summer Games of Los Angeles 1984. And it's going to be a tremendous evening. Many of the Olympians will be there, as many who organized. And I just want to call out the names of the late, great Tom Bradley, late, great John Ferraro, John Argue, Paul Ziffert, and others who have gone before us who helped organize the games, which were one of the most successful era in the city's history.
That's open to the public, Mr. LaBonge?
No, it's just an announcement that we will be gathered from the Southern California Olympic Organizing Committee. But if you're around, you'll see the torch on celebrating the beauty of the Olympic Games. Just remember the Olympics.
Mr. Parks?
And the refurbishment of the statue, of the Robert Graham statue.
Mr. Parks? Anyone else for announcements? Mr. Alarcon?
I mentioned that my community inauguration ceremony will be tomorrow at Mend at 11 o'clock, and I invite all my colleagues and the masses of the public who would like to attend as well. Okay.
For your re-election to the City Council?
Yes, Mr. Zine, I was re-elected.
I think you had no opposition, sir.
For a year. Yes.
It's a win.
It's still a win.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, another announcement. I mentioned it when we were talking about the dysfunctional state and the Constitutional Convention. There is a Constitutional Convention today at Santa Monica College at the Broad Stage at 11th and Santa Monica Boulevard, starting about 6:30 tonight. So I urge people to come on out and look at the democracy at its best. We really need to have a Constitutional Convention in the state and deal with a lot of issues. But come tonight to Santa Monica, and I think you'll find it very informative.
All right, Mr. Garcetti, announcement? No, any more announcements? For adjourning motions, please stand. Mr. Garcetti, adjourning motions.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ran into a neighbor on Wednesday on the steps in Echo Park, and he said he had just been the last week with perhaps the greatest architectural photographer to ever live, and a great Angelino, Julius Schulman. And he said, since this man had been a mentor to my father and a friend to me as well, he said, try to get to see Julius. He's sunsetting. And I think we're all familiar with folks who have lived long lives. When they prepare to pass on from this world, they begin to sunset. You see it physically and mentally and emotionally. I went to call my dad about it and learned the unfortunate news yesterday that Julius Schulman had passed. Julius Schulman, though, his passing is not something for us to mourn. He lived 98 years. His luminous photographs of homes and buildings brought fame to a number of 20th century modernist architects and made him a household name in the architectural world. He passed away on Wednesday night. He died at his home in Los Angeles, and I know Mr. LaBonge, who joins me as co-presenting this, has been to that home as well. It was a beautiful home up right below Mulholland Drive. And I remember going up there and talking to him, and he had records of everything. He was a great lover of the city. And he said, you know, I'm so glad what we're doing about the LA River. And he said, you know why? The city has failed all these past opportunities to make green space. And he said, in fact, not many people know, and he pulled out an old Sunset magazine, that Sunset magazine proposed that the San Fernando Valley have from east to west in the very center of the entire valley a riparian corridor that would just be preserved as green space, something that would be 10 times the size of Central Park in New York. And imagine if we had actually done that as a city, what the San Fernando Valley would look like to have that down the middle of it. Yeah, it would still be Van Nuys. He started with Richard Neutra in 1936, but the roster of clients read like a history of modern architecture in the 20th century. Rudolf Schindler, Gregory Ain, Frank Lloyd Wright, Charles Eames, Raphael Soriano, whose home was designed, or he lived in one of his homes. John Lautner, Eero Saarinen, Albert Frey, Pierre Koenig, and Harwell Harris, among others. He was taking pictures up to about 2 months ago, still working hard. His 1960 photograph of Koenig's case study house in the Hollywood Hills, case study number 22, with a woman in a dress overlooking the beautiful lights of Los Angeles, is probably the most iconic picture of the 20th century in terms of architecture, and certainly one of the most iconic pictures of Los Angeles. It was, at the time, New York Times wrote, one of those singular images that sum up the entire city at a moment in time. And his work went well beyond merely taking beautiful pictures of homes and buildings. His mission was to use his photography to build a reputation of architects who were bringing innovative designs to the West. He was born on October 10th, 1910, in Brooklyn, New York, the son of Russian-Jewish immigrants. Soon after, the family moved to a farm in Connecticut where they raised cows and grew corn and had a small fur business. And it was there that he first developed his love of nature and the interplay of light and influenced his course. But when he was 10, the family moved to Boyle Heights. It was predominantly Jewish at the time. They opened the New York dry goods store on Temple Street. His father died of tuberculosis when he was just 13, leaving his mother to raise 5 children to run the business. But he studied hard, graduated from Roosevelt High School. It was his only course he ever took in photography was actually LA Unified from Roosevelt. He spent 7 years as what he called an academic drifter, auditing geology, philosophy, and other courses at UCLA and UC Berkeley. But he returned to LA without a degree, not sure what to do, and he had this chance meeting with Neutra. And the rest is history. His sense of light was instinctual. He stopped working with a light meter a year after he started taking photographs. He just knew it and saw it in his eyes and had that sort of brilliance. He took black and white photographs, first selling them for $35 and $50 a piece, and then they soon were fetching $2,000 and then $20,000 on the art market. Now his photographs are worth millions upon millions of dollars. His home in the Hollywood Hills, which I mentioned was designed by Soriano, was designated monument by this body in 1987. And it's the only remaining unaltered steel structure by the architect. He continued taking assignments with his collaborator, Jürgen Nagai, in his late 90s. And in 2005, the Getty Center announced he had acquired Schulman's archive of 260,000 negatives, prints, and transparencies. Just 2 last notes on a personal basis. He gave my dad the courage to do what he's doing now and said, Gil, you were miscast in the law, you were meant for photography, and wrote a piece in his first book. And my dad considers him one of his closest friends and the greatest mentor. And my mom worked with him too, helping catalog his photographs in his later years as well. 260,000 negatives, prints, and transparencies that the Getty Center now has. His first wife, Emma, died in 1973, and his second, Olga, died in 1992. He's survived by his wonderful daughter, who we spoke to, Judy McKee, and she really appreciates us all doing this, and a grandson, Timothy, both of Santa Barbara. His images will live forever, and certainly Julius will live in our hearts forever as well. God rest his soul. Tom.
Mr. LaBlanche.
Thank you, Eric. You really touched on a man who was so special. First, to live to be 98, but to be an artist. Just recently, a few years ago, when we finished the refurbishment and expansion of the observatory, he volunteered as a gift to the city to photograph the observatory in its first days and in its inception after the restoration. He also was a great photographer for our monuments, and in my early days here for our Cultural Heritage Board, which used to be on the 50th floor in City Hall. All of Julius's work was here. He was a fun person, a loving person. He was in Eagle Rock in your district a couple of months ago at a party. I stopped by and I gave him a kiss. I don't kiss too many men, but if they're over 90, I certainly kiss them and hug them. And I will tell you, Julius Schulman was a very, very special man. Throughout the world of photography, the world of art, you will know that they lost a great one in Julius Schulman in the city of Los Angeles, which he loved, which he took great pictures of. This grand city hall is a better place because of Julius Schulman. God rest his memory.
All council members?
Yes.
Mr. Alarcon?
Members, I'd like to ask Jose Huizar to join me in adjourning in memory of my great aunt Remedios Bueno, who died just this week. Mr. Schulman was not even a gleam in his father's eye when my great aunt was born. She died at the amazing and wonderful age of 107. So you guys are going to be stuck with me for a long, long time. She died Yeah, she was a long-time resident of Boyle Heights, and in fact, my father, she was his closest relative in the Los Angeles area, and in fact, he, even in his death, paid for her burial yesterday. So my father would take me to Boyle Heights about once or twice, no, actually once every other month or so. And that's why if you heard me say I went to the opening day at the Mercado, it was because we were visiting Remedios that I had that opportunity. She had a small restaurant, her and her husband Mike Bueno had a small restaurant in East LA for a number of years, but mainly at 107, I knew her as someone who just kept a great household. She also raised her grandson Danny, and we used to do various probably very irresponsible things together in what is your district, and when he would visit my dad's house, we would do things over there. But she was a good woman. I said her name was Remedios Bueno, which means, literally translated, good remedies. And I absolutely believe that it was very telling that she would live to be 107. I said at her funeral yesterday that people who live to be 100 don't get there by being bad people, and they don't get there by not learning something over time and learning how to adjust. And I also said that it would be, I think, my goal to get to 100 so I could reach that level of calm and understanding and compassion and caring. She was very astute, even at 107. She was well aware of what was going on with her family. She would constantly ask about different members. She was very well aware of me being a city council member. One of the nicest people I've ever met, and we had the opportunity to meet some incredible people in this job, but I absolutely can say that she's one of the nicest people I've ever met, and she loved us dearly. She didn't have any children of her own, although she raised stepchildren. And she had a tremendous love for children. So I just appreciate all of you adjourning in her memory. As I said, her services were yesterday. She's survived by not too many people, quite frankly, but she is joined by a huge number of people in heaven that she touched along her way. So they're having a great celebration, as a matter of fact, right as we speak. So thank you very much, Remedios Bueno, for a life well lived.
Second by Mr. Rizar. God bless her. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. I'd like us to adjourn today in the memory of Virgil Ray Mack McCutcheon, who passed away July 16th. Mack, for many years, owned the Seaside Pharmacy in San Pedro, which is the oldest business in San Pedro. It was founded in 1889, and he owned it for nearly 4 decades. After purchasing it in 1951, he then sold it to Joe Seibert in 1982. But even after he retired, and he lived in San Pedro with his wife Pat for 40 years, and even after retiring to the Temecula area, he went back and worked in the Valley Hospital in Murrieta as a pharmacist, and also was a teacher and mentor for the corporate owner of that hospital, traveling around the country instructing pharmacists. Mack was one of those in San Pedro. Mack and his buddies met daily for breakfast at you probably won't know this, but anybody watching this in San Pedro will remember the old Hobby Nobby coffee shop on Pacific Avenue, and those were the days where the guys all got together and met for breakfast every morning, and a lot of people still remember Mack in that fond way. He was a great member of the community in San Pedro. He was a member of the Rotary. He was a 32nd degree Master Mason and a former member of the LA Harbor Lodge, number 332. He's survived by his wife of over 60 years, Pat, and 4 of his 5 daughters, Susan, Nancy, Jane, and Karen, survived by 8 grandchildren, and Mac's services will be held Tuesday at Green Hills Memorial Park in San Pedro. I don't have a lot of information on this next one, but some of you might have seen the news about that plane crash in Hawthorne. Wednesday, 3 people were killed. Come to find out, I actually did know the father of one of them, and there were 3 men that perished in that crash. Mustafa Sasay was an instructor, and I don't think we're clear on who was actually piloting at the time, but I knew his dad, Mustafa Sasay, as well, a good Democrat in the area, belonged to a lot of Democratic clubs, and was always a friend of mine and a supporter of mine. Again, I don't have any other details on his son's life. He was a graduate of Mira Costa High School in Manhattan Beach, but I wanted to adjourn in his memory and let his dad know that we've done this.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Weezer?
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it saddens me today to adjourn in memory of Jaime Lara Aranda, Jr., brother-in-law of my staff member Pauline Medina. Jaime left this world far, far too early. Only 26, he was killed on June 6th in a tragic car accident. He was laid to rest on June 11th. Born and raised in Los Angeles, he was a hard worker and was employed by Lucky Supermarket as a dairy manager for several years. He was also a devoted and loving father to his daughter, Delilah. He enjoyed spending free time with her, taking Delilah to her Gymboree classes, reading to her, or taking her to the park. Jaime was a USC and Lakers fan, and certainly must be smiling down from heaven as the Lakers got their championship trophy. Jaime is survived by his partner Amanda, his daughter Delilah, Amanda Ray Lara, his parents, his 5 sisters, several uncles, aunts, and over 35 cousins. His loss was a tragedy, and he will be greatly missed by all who knew him.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Members, I ask we all join in memory of Henry Sloan, Jr. Some of you may have known Henry. He worked for the Department of Water and Power. I just learned of his passing. He retired 4 years ago. He was in government affairs, and he worked with all your deputies on problems, on solving problems. He was a very caring man. He survived by his 3 daughters and 1 son, Henry Sloan, Jr. Yes, please. And all members.
All members. All members.
And also, members, that we should stand in the tragedy in Jakarta with the bombing that took place. As you know, Jakarta is a sister city of ours. 9 people have been killed, so far reported, and over 50 injured. This is an attack which took place their time on Friday morning, and we stand with our sister city of Jakarta in memory of the victims of that tragedy.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Any other adjourning motion? Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Virginia T. Zane, who was born August 2nd, 1913 in Pasadena. She passed away recently, July 12th, in San Gabriel. Virginia was the mother of Tony Zane, who I went to school with, and later we played flag football throughout L.A. County. Virginia is the last and longest surviving original and active member of the First Russian Orthodox Church in Los Angeles, Holy Transfiguration, where she was a member for over 70 years. She married Nicholas and was married for over 37 years before he passed away in 1977. And she was the original team mom for the legendary dwarf football team that played flag football since 1951 and is still competing in existence today. We had a number of people today on dealing with being senior and being able to get a number of years. Virginia was blessed to celebrate her 95th birthday last summer, with 5 of her guests in attendance between the ages of 93 and 95, all of which took part in her wedding in 1939. She worked as a seamstress until she was 81. She was instrumental in helping displaced Russian immigrants coming to California during the 50s and 60s. Her funeral services were held July the 16th at 10:30 at the Holy Transfiguration Orthodox Church in Los Angeles. She was survived by her children, Tony Zane, his wife Shirley, her daughter Mary Ann Dealworth, and her husband Peter, 3 grandchildren, and her sisters Alexandra, 94, and Helen, who is 94.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Labange?
You have one, Mr. Zine?
No.
Okay, I'd just like to ask, as we do adjourn in the final meeting, I did have a picture that was given to me many years ago by Julius Shulman of our City Hall, taken in 1973. And as we do adjourn, after the clerk calls, we'll ask that ITA focus on its work.
They're doing that at this moment? Thank you. This concludes the meeting.